Welcome to Lat B, the only podcast that comes with a free Bandits bonus.
Express delivery included.
Lat B, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the Lat B podcast.
Welcome back, episode 239. We're coming off of probably the fight card of the year. I may be a little bit biased because I gotta see that in person, and we saw some unbelievable finishes. There was money that was made. It was a fun weekend. We were definitely above that 50% mark. How have you been since we last met? I know you had a good time at the show. I had a good time at the show. It was well worth the trip.
Oh my gosh, it really was such a good time, such great people around us, educated fans. It was great to be around educated fans. And for me personally, as a woman, more chicks ever than I ever seen at a fight card, and from brand new fans, but it was brand new woman and man fans. Like, it wasn't just girls, to really educated girls that were there from the beginning.
100%. We're seeing it more and more at these fight shows.
There was also a ton of awesome men, but that's the obvious. I feel like if you've ever been to a UFC event, it's usually just sausage fest.
It was definitely full of all sorts of fight fans. Unfortunately,
single ladies, go to fights.
If you want to find a man, I'm just saying.
I feel like if you're a single lady, learn about UFC. It's better than learning the cha-cha. Learn about UFC. Better than going to dance class. Learn about UFC.
Very, very true. Very true.
Single dudes.
It was interesting, the fan experience, because they didn't really have one. The time before, within this year, we actually had some really cool interactions, and none of that this time. There was a beer garden, and it was right into the arena. What did you take away from, I guess, the educated fans, the lady fans we just talked about?
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. There wasn't the meet and greet that we shared in Fort Lauderdale. We did not get to meet any Dustin Poirier. There wasn't even the big UFC letters out front. They didn't do quite the fluff as definitely.
But we had a 14-fight card. That was historic.
They had to get but we would have been there. Well, you know what? We didn't really have time anyway. Even if there was other stuff going on, we didn't have time.
It was definitely a road trip to get down there, but well worth it. Starting off the night, we ended up having, in this quick recap, we're going to do the 14 fights.
I have to thank our fans, because it was really them saying that we had to go.
It's a good point.
That I was like, the closer it got, by the time, before I went to bed Friday night, I had to know if I was going to this card. I had to know, but that's how long we waited.
We didn't get our tickets until we were on the road to the event.
Yeah.
That's how last for the minute was.
And we lucked out, you guys. It was so easy, and it was the cheapest seats we've ever got for one of these by $50.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So such an event, such a great event. Ended up starting off with JJ Aldridge coming in over Lauren Mueller at 125 pounds. Aldridge, better striking. Mueller raising her hands at times in there, egging her on to get more into a brawl. But Mueller couldn't take her down, and striking-wise, she just wasn't there with Aldridge. Mueller's barely holding on to a job in there right now. Aldridge is going to be someone that I still like. She's a southpaw that hits straight. It's just she doesn't have that killer instinct. She doesn't move forward a lot, so she's going to keep being in these dicey type of decision type of fights until she moves forward. But the technical skills are there for Aldridge. She has everything she needs to be a contender.
Is Aldridge like Michelle Watterson if the UFC had a woman's 105 division? Is she a prospect for that division as well? Is she just a little too small for the
No, because she would go down to 115. So.
Oh, is this 125?
This is 125.
Oh, JJ must have already went up. I wasn't even paying attention.
So this was definitely. She's sized there, right? It's just a weak division. Mueller's going to probably stick around for a little while. But again, you're going to be tentative on either one of those ladies moving forward. Then we had the rematch between Vettori versus Andrew Sanchez decision. A lot of people thought it was going to be a finish. Vettori doesn't finish anybody, and that's proven again. I mean, this seemed like one-way traffic most of the time, and it was Vettori moving forward. The few shots that were attempted there by Sanchez were easily shucked off by Vettori, and then it just kind of turned into a kickboxing match. Don't really remember much other than that was about it.
No, and I really quick about JJ, her body, she just didn't look... she just looked small a little bit, whatever, even if it's to 115. But I think she's stunted in the division otherwise. I don't know how much I think she grows, but I don't think she's a champion.
Yeah,
even
really
with her
like
style,
JJ, she's not going to ever...
Yeah.
She'll be in that
watching
top
her
10
in there.
maybe. In
Sorry,
the 10th
I was just
position.
looking at the picture, and then you were talking about the Marvin Vettori fight, and that was so boring. I started thinking about the JJ fight.
It was definitely nothing to take from either guy there. I mean, it was a big favorite for a reason, but Vettori just not a finisher. Sanchez gasses again. I feel like after that second round, he's just like a noodle arm man in there hanging on.
Yeah, where does Vettori go from here? Whatever.
Anybody for either of those guys. So then we move on to the debuter, Beza, coming in over Hector Aldana. This was a leg kick finish in the second round, 2 minutes and 32 seconds into the fight. I mean, Beza was getting everything he wanted off. He was entering and exiting with those kicks, and Aldana just couldn't take it, sat him down, and the ref, rightfully so, was like, hey, he can't stand up from leg kicks. Fight's over. Good job, ref, whoever the hell you were at that time, but later on, your colleagues, not such good news, unfortunately, so...
I was excited about what I saw from Beza. I thought he was going to take Aldana to decision, and not so much. It's like you almost have to give credit to who Beza just fought in the Contender series to get in, that he couldn't. It was just a beating. It was one of those beatings where he should have had the towel thrown in.
To an extent in there, Aldana really didn't get anything. And
not about Aldana, his first fight. And remember how long that fight went on that he just didn't... Sorry.
Right, that he didn't finish in there. It's Hector Aldana, though, is where I'm like, we can't give it that much proof, because I've never really thought Aldana was UFC caliber. Now, 4-fight in a row losing streak, I believe, for Aldana. So he's probably out of here by this point in time, and it's kind of rightfully so. He just hasn't shown us that he's UFC caliber. In a division of 170 pounds, there's tons of guys chomping at the bit right now.
Yeah, I just had a decision for Beza in that fight, and it was, it was not a decision. I thought it was just a beautiful showing all the way through. Obviously Aldana didn't look good anywhere, and it is just Aldana, but I just thought Miguel put on a clinic. I was excited by what I saw.
Definitely a fun one in there, prospect to keep your eye on. Then we ended up moving on to 135 pounds, where we had Marlon Chito Vera coming in against Andre Ewell in there. Ewell was definitely, like we said, has a good first round, doesn't have a good third round, and Chito Vera has a slow first round and finishes extra strong. He only ended up getting into the 3-minute 17 mark of the third round, where Ewell was really gassing after that second round hard, but it was because Chito Vera was attacking the body incredibly well, throwing in teeps, head kicks. It was a fun brawl. In the crowd, we were going absolutely nuts for this. You know, we're Chito lovers around here, and man, was it good to see that finish. Rightfully so. There was times in here where I felt like Ewell could have been stopped even earlier, but the ground and pound finish, he wasn't completely out. It was a technical knockout. People, I feel like, still sleeping on Chito Vera. I saw a lot more of the betting community coming in on Ewell, and I was really surprised.
He's a slow starter, and I think people forget that about Chito. So he's really smart. If you watch his fights, he covers up well. So he does look like he's taking punches, but he's taking a lot of them. Not that they still don't hurt to his forearms and to his shoulders and even to the top of his head, but he's really good at mitigating and taking away their cardio and then coming in strong like a Cowboy Cerrone. He's a slow starter.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think Chito, fine, keep sleeping on him. He's a great underdog.
Exactly. Even though he was a slight favorite in this, it did get pretty tight.
I still like him going forward. He's going to be a great underdog for you.
I totally agree. I think he can beat a lot of other people in there with his range and size in there. Again, gas tank issues for Ewell are just a thing that keep on being factors for him. So anyone with a gas tank is always going to be, or any good third round type of fighter is going to be trouble for Ewell in there moving forward. Chito Vera, who would you give next? It needs to be a ranked guy at this point, right? Five fight winning streak. Ton of finishes. I believe all 5 of them have been finishes in a row now. So what do you do? Who's the ranked guy?
I know. You know what the weird thing about Cheeto is? He's always the go-to guy. He fills in on these short notice cards, and he makes for an exciting fight. They can really fill out a prelim with him. And it's almost like he's not getting his shot because he keeps giving somebody else theirs. And he's just finishing him. So I do think it's time for Cheeto to maybe have that full camp and know he's training for someone for a big card and a big pay-per-view. I think he could be on a pay-per-view card. I'd be very excited about it.
Easy. He is definitely must-watch pay-per-view in my eyes, but we've been saying that for a while now if you've been listening, and we know you have. The Legion getting stronger every single day out there. We're hearing it. We love it, especially now that we're a part of all these other picking organizations. We're getting our name out there. So it's been fun growing with everybody all the way around. Anything left with Chito Vera?
No, I love Cheeto. Love Cheeto. He's so exciting to watch. What a great guy.
Then we ended up going into Davician Figueiredo versus Tim Elliott. The PMP ended up not coming through. Big underdog. I mean, it was an interesting fight for the bit that it lasted on the feet. Tim Elliott shot in for his first takedown, shot in deep, and Figueiredo snatched up a super deep guillotine. I would have just thought that Tim Elliott would have realized that that's what Figueiredo does. Like, yeah, you understand that. That's why you shoot a single leg, take him down and work on the outside. I just feel like on that replay, it was showing pretty easy how Figueiredo, just flat out jumped in it. I don't know, it didn't look spectacular, but I guess that's what you do when it's really good. It doesn't look particularly good, but damn. Another one went down. Tim Elliott. I had him in a lot of spots on DK. He hurt. I did hedge my bets because the finish ability is always there for Davician in any one of his fights. So it didn't absolutely kill me, but there was a few of my more expensive cards that ended up taking a big hit with Elliott. What'd you end up remembering in this short fight?
Davician's still on his way up, but the question is, what do you take from Elliott on this fight?
I agree. He can't beat these top 5, maybe even top 6 or 8 guys, but anyone under there, he's going to give you high potential with his amount of output. He just always also puts himself in really bad situations, and he's flashy, but it's maybe I see that flash because he has to be, because all of a sudden he's like, uh-oh, I'm about to get beat.
Yeah.
So, oh shit. So that's why it makes it for a fun fight, but, there is technical ability that sometimes he just throws out the window. Or could it
be ring rust?
2 years, almost 2 years with a bad knee. And
I know some people don't believe in it. I do. I personally just think the amount of pressure of just the lights alone and the adrenaline dump that you'd have maybe even before you get into the octagon, it would be really hard, the amount of time they train back there. And just to keep it all into perspective, we say how quick the sport's evolving. If you're training for a guy that's getting this much better and is keeping steady in the octagon, that's the best training you can get for being inside the live octagon.
I agree. You can't mimic it even in practice, and that's what they say. They try as hard as they can, but there's nothing like being in that crowd with those lights on. So definitely.
But does it make you higher on Davician going forward, knowing that his takedown defense is that good because you respect Tim Elliott so much?
Definitely, but he can't get much higher than what? He was 3rd, so in the division right now, so he's going to keep his spot. I feel like Elliott was maybe 6th. I was surprised when I saw those rankings because I was like, wow, I didn't think they were that highly ranked, but the division is a little bit light.
So then he just has to sit there and keep welcoming challengers because Joey B's not going to fight him.
Well, he can keep getting paid.
And nor should he. I think Joey B deserves his title shot. Like, I am not advocating that he does, but it's like, who's next? Good point.
Anybody in that top division. Moving on to Alex Morono coming in over Max Griffin, the slight favorite, ended up edging out 2 of those rounds, 2-1. Max Griffin had a good first round showing, and then Morono came on late. That second round could have been a 10-8 with that head kick that dropped Max Griffin at the end of the second round. If it would have went any longer, it could have been finished. Luckily for him, he ended up having that bell save him. But the third round, Max Griffin got back into the fight, but it was easily a 29-28 decision for Morono in there. I mean, Fortis MMA really changing the striking game plan. The ground attack has always been on point for Morono. He's not been able to just worry about moving forward, and that's always going to win you fights, especially with the type of output Morono has. The strike defense I actually like for Morono. It's finally starting to get better. He used to eat a lot more shots. I feel like he covers a lot more and then still throws his output. So dark horse in the division because he's not intimidating. He doesn't look intimidating. At a bar fight, you would never think Morono's going to beat you up, and he's the guy that all of a sudden you're like, whoa, he hit me with a 20-punch combination out of nowhere.
I don't really think he's a dark horse. I'm not in love with Max Griffin.
Interesting. I like Max Griffin.
But
I picked Morono in that fight as well, seeing that there was that cardio.
This was the first one I got wrong so far tonight. All of a sudden, I was like, ooh, it's going to be a good night in Tampa. Okay, no big deal, because I just had it going to decision. I stayed away from this altogether, so it was no harm, no foul. That's all I had to take away from it, is I kind of saw it going one way or the other, and I wasn't married to either side, so I went with the guy that I knew a little more, and yeah, he clearly lost the fight. Morono definitely looked good in there, and he's young enough that he's interesting. He's intriguing. Yeah, he could be a dark horse.
Moving on to debuting, Mike Davis coming in against Thomas Gifford. He's not debuting. I just always like to freaking say that. He was off of the Contender Series, I believe, debuted short notice. But either way, came in on the most one-sided fight we've ever seen. We were booing in the crowd there at that ref. It could have been finished in the first round. Coming into this fight, I mean, the size advantage as far as length came into Gifford, but as I was saying before, I don't think he's UFC caliber. Davis was. We were in the stands watching, being like, wow, how is Davis taking these shots? The first few shots in, I mean, Davis was putting everything into them. At the end of that first round, it was a 5-6 punch combo.
Silly had Gifford, and I didn't go with either fighter anywhere, so it was just a wrong pick. No big deal. Wasn't even on the main event, so it didn't even affect my fight pick championships. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so it didn't. It was whatever. I emotionally let go of it, and he clearly lost the first round. It should have been stopped in the first round.
End of the first round.
We were good, and I actually thought when he broke it up, the ref stopped it. I thought it was one of those ones that was stopped on like right at the bell that the ref is
right. We're like, oh, thank you, good job.
Yeah, and I said to you right then, I wouldn't let him get off the stool. I would throw in the towel. I would not let my fighter get off the stool. If that's your boy, you're going to save him 3 more fights in his career by holding up.
And we're in the stands, mind you. We're not listening to the commentary, which I went back and listened.
Yeah, we don't get to hear any of Bisping or
We're in the stands just like, oh, he's taking a beating. This guy's taking a freaking beating in here. Second round comes out, doesn't turn out much better, gets dropped again at the end of the second round after big flurries, but in between all this, I mean, you guys watch it, Davis is landing heavy-ass right hands over the top. I was more surprised after the fact, or actually when I was in the arena, I had Evil Twin texting me being like, his dad's in his corner, and being like, that doesn't make any freaking sense at all.
It does to me. Like, I just picture those kind of dads are... his dad is to him what JonBenet Ramsey's mom is to her. Yeah, they are a stage parent. I feel like they push and like, come on, honey, smile. Put the Vaseline on your teeth and smile. Hold it up now. Suck it in. Butt out, boobs out. Suck it in. Lips, blah. Now we're going to ask questions. I feel like that is the exact equivalent to a fighter's dad being in his corner the whole time.
There's different expectations and he can take, but you would think that your own father would be like, all right, kid, you've had enough. We'll live to fight another day. Where, as you're saying, definitely took fights off of his career there.
You know what I think of always? It's so embarrassing.
Fill me in.
Weidman, and his dad. This is my son, and I love him. reminds me of, there's a movie, Heather. I know, but he just came in like during Weidman's talk and like, he's still my son and I still love him. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. It always reminds me, there's a movie, Heathers, and there's two football players that they set up to make it look like they were in a gay lovers tryst and killed each other. And so there's like two coffins with like two guys holding footballs with their football helmets up front, like, you know, and they're all at the funeral. And the dad goes up and he's like, I love my dead gay son. And that's always what I think of when the Chris Weidman moment. Like, whoa, this, not that you can't love it, it was inappropriate. I don't know.
So that's your dad, that's your UFC dad. That's your UFC dad.
Yeah, that
your
was a
archetype.
big, long tryst. But anyways, it was all, your corner should throw it in.
Yes. The ref should throw it in. We were booing that ref when the finish finally came in that third round after that hard 1-2 finally landed. And I was booing the ref. All of a sudden, the crowd around me started booing the ref like, you should have stopped that. You should have stopped that. I was really pleasantly surprised to hear from Evil Twin that before that Negro Price fight that they're like, hey, the commission decided to pull that ref. Herb Dean's not going to stand in for the rest of his fights. Florida, you're doing a damn good job. You're protecting people out there because that was brutal. We don't want to see fans that are le casuals.
Your judges ain't worth a shit, but your commission of pulling the referee is good.
Right. Very, very true. Very true. So, one good thing for the commission.
Well, not all the judges. They weren't the worst. There was like a 30-27 card. We were like,
we're getting there. There was some brutal ones in there.
Anyways, we all agree it should be stopped. And for me, yes, the ref, 100% it's his job. But you know who else's job it is? Your friggin' corners. They love you. They actually have love for you.
Supposedly.
Yeah, so it's just like, dude, and this is the number one thing. Fans and fighters alike, there needs to not be a shame in that. Like the way that fighters like, oh, I'm never going to talk to you again. Like, how dare you not take me out on my shield? Like, it needs to not be shameful in the least a bit, so that it's like, no, dude, you have the heart of a warrior. If somebody had to throw in the towel on you and you didn't get finished, knocked out, or submitted, you are like, you're the one you won on your side 1,000 years ago and you're fighting for your land. Like,
Right. So definitely we saw a lot of grit in there, but good thing the commission ended up fixing that, not letting that ref Glenn ever hopefully ref again, or he goes banished back to it. But UFC, no, thank you very much. So we'll see how that ends up turning out overall.
And Gifford get on out of here?
I've not thought he was UFC caliber.
To the beginning?
At the beginning, again, he
and
was
Mike
set
Davis
up for
don't get high on him because it's just Gifford?
He did break the slate on my DK, 147 points in that fight, so I had Davis thinking he would probably get the finish in there. I think Davis can stick around. Again, he went to decision with Youssef. See where Youssef is.
No, I just mean, like, are you high on him, or you just are like, no, don't get stoked?
Don't get super stoked. It was Gifford again in there, so not UFC caliber. Then we move on to Ryan Spann getting a guillotine choke in the second round against Devin Clark. Telling you, Jan Blachowicz can finish this guy without hooks in on a rear naked choke. Devin Clark has issues with just submissions. He taps quickly. He's a quick tapper, as some might say. But
quick tapper.
In this fight, I was amazed by Devin Clark's thighs. You know, I'm usually a hip guy, but those legs were as thick as I've ever seen. I mean, everyone in my section, I was like, ladies, look at those legs, cheese and rice. It was unbelievable. Looks like he can make it, but Devin Clark he's there to be on a highlight reel, unfortunately.
I think those
people.
Legs are like thigh-high boots, completely unnecessary.
Glamour muscles.
Like, completely unnecessary. And I really can't fathom, unless you were to leg lock and that was your submission style, I can't even fathom what the benefit of having legs that size would be, except to eat up your cardio. Like, I can't even fathom.
It happens nonstop.
It is
absolute
unbelievable. I never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. He looked like he could have been on a Cardi B video. With those big old legs and booty.
He looked like he could jump on a 2-story building with those legs. They're like Hulk legs.
He looked like the back of him. What are they? The Centaur? Wait, the Centaur is the bullhead. Minotaur. Yeah, with a horse butt. And
yeah, Holly Holm butt.
Yeah. I didn't say that.
No, his legs are humongous.
You got a Holly Holm butt? HHB. That's different than the GHB.
Which Holly Holm in the stands, cheering on her girl Watterson in there, so she was in the building. As much as DP, we had a lot of fighters in the stands in there. Thought we saw Marlon Moraes. It was just his doppelganger.
It was just a bald guy.
We had Mini Moa in the stands. Mini Moa shouting you out. The Aquaman himself.
There was a little dude that looked just like Jason Momoa.
Except 5'6".
And like $155.
Yeah, exactly. So, with Ryan Spann, he can get anybody in the division. Clark, because he went to 205, he probably gets 2 more fights in the UFC, and then it's probably time. You know what time. But again, he's probably got 2 more fights.
Good on him. He got choked out this time instead of knocked out, though.
Good point. Moving on to 185 pounds, we had Eric Anders beat Gerald Meerschaert. We both had the underdog here. Meatball not coming through, not being able to get the takedown. Once Anders was able to keep it where he wanted to, striking, Meerschaert just kind of fell short in all of the exchanges. Never really got anything going. If he can't get it to the ground, he can't get where he wants to, and that's going to be a big problem for him moving forward. Definitely, I feel like Meerschaert used to have better entries on his takedowns and just went to a couple picks, a couple clinches on the fence, and really just stayed in that kickboxing range. So he didn't. It was a split decision. Neither guy won that fight for me. Like, I didn't take anything where I'm like, oh, that's a contender out of either one of them. There's just someone to be tentative on moving forward.
I liked the way Eric Anders' body looked. He looked different. He looked like he had more flexible, like a different physique. He had more of an MMA fighter's physique and less of just like a football player athlete's physique. He's getting, like, his muscles look like they're getting longer and leaner in his shoulders. And I liked everything I saw from Anders. I thought his takedown defense was good. And I do agree the entries were shit, but it's still Meerschaert. And he made it the whole way. And I don't think it was a split decision. I think Anders did better than that. I wanted to look at it with biased eyes, but I don't think it should have been a split.
This actually starting off the Fight Pick Championships for us. So this was ranked. We both had Meerschaert in this. Made it hurt a little bit more, but I would agree Anders did end up winning that fight overall. Meerschaert just... I was surprised, honestly, that it was, as you're saying, a split decision because Meerschaert just eating 2 to 3 punches for one.
And did we give everyone the breakdown at the show at the beginning of what we were going to be doing?
No.
We'll try to get better, like give you a little roadmap of what we're going to do. So obviously we're in the middle of recapping UFC Tampa, and then we're going to go into some Twitterverse talk and UFC gossip, MMA gossip, and then we're going to fight championship shit talk.
Ooh,
because I'm going to let it, if I'm second from last, that's what I do.
You can only punch up.
That's it. Like, I know who can, why are you calling me out? Like, yeah, so, and I'm really awful at shit talk. It's the time in my life where I fucking hate hacking corn, but that's how I shit talk. Because I never really feel that, I'm not that competitive where I get that mad about it. And if you followed the show long enough, can you imagine if I was? I would just be so sad.
I'm going to bake you a cake. I'm going to make you cookies. You're Joanne Calderwood, where you're like, I don't really trash talk.
I know, like, I'm sorry, he's a flower. But then after all that said and done, we'll get into UFC Boston finally. So the show is getting longer. I know we were going to try to rush it up, but we're not doing 2 shows a week anymore. So you guys can listen to it in 2 segments if you want, but we're going to give you a big fat daddy show.
Definitely gonna teach you what it's all about in it all. So it started off our Fight Pick Championships with a big old goose egg on Meerschaert. Then we ended up moving.
He Meerschaerted.
Definitely. I feel like we've said that way too many times with Meerschaert.
I know.
Right? Every time we're like, oh, he mere-sharded again.
Is it time to get on out of here?
No. He still definitely has multiple fights in this division at 185
He's still
pounds.
going to snatch people's neck up with those horrible takedowns.
He's going to beat the lower-level guys, but again, no contenders rankings for either one of these guys moving forward. Then we ended up going into probably the dirtiest split we've ever seen. There must be something in the water here in Tampa. I think it's alcohol, because the judges ended up going for Steamroller Frivola over Luis Pena. I feel like in the breakdown I was telling you guys, Luis Pena hasn't lived up to the hype, gets in a lot of dirty splits. Trezano, I saw the relationship or the representation kind of there with Frivola. Thought it could go the same. I still picked Pena in a decision. Ended up going to Frivola. I do think the crowd played a role here because we were in the stands and Frivola's, we had for steam heads going crazy all 3 rounds, even when he got dropped in that second round with that knee. Well, he didn't get dropped. He got stunned.
I call it the Steamroller Derby. And they took over the whole third section. We thought, oh, no one's going to be up top in this section. Nope, it was just Steamroller fans, and they just came in for that fight and left.
They all left after the Frivola fight. They all went and got
wasted. And they just sat up there and said, Steamroller! And they did cheer on the judges. He could have gotten the first round of 10-8 if they wanted to give it a draw. I could been because of he didn't knock him out. He just had some mad ass takedowns. So I understand if they wanted to get maybe not 10-8, but they were scoring heavy in the night, I thought. But 10-9, he won the first round. I could even give it to him, even though I didn't. I gave it to Pena because I felt like Pena did enough on his feet, controlled it for the latter half of it, and did so many more punches. How many strikes equal one takedown eventually that you have to lean it over to the other side? So I ended up giving it to Pena, but I could see, if I wanted to be lenient, 1 round going to Frivola that first round.
Maybe 1 round.
Maybe
1 round.
Maybe. And the other 2 I clearly had for Pena.
But one of those other rounds for Pena could have been a 10-8 even.
Yeah.
That's how dominant one of those rounds was for Pena. Third round up in the air, people are saying, but I agree. If there was any round for Frivola, it would have been potentially that first round. So, again, there's something in the water. I had it for Pena.
But if other people were arguing the third, maybe there's something I did not see.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it either in there. So definitely the local Tampa guy with the big crowd contingent in there. It was just one of those factors we like to play into.
I had it 30-27. Luis Pena.
I had 29. Yeah, I could see 30-27 only because I gave it a 10-8 round with that flying knee that landed on.
I did 10-9, 10-9, 10-9 because I didn't give him the first round. I did think Pena did enough, but I was trying to be fair and unbiased, like right. Fox News. Is that what they say on theirs? I think. No, wait, Bill O'Reilly. We're going to do it live. We're going to do it live.
So, moving forward with either one of these guys, Frivola, he's well-rounded all the way around, tough as nails. We're definitely going to see that moving forward. He's had a big upset. Pena, again, he's going to get in these decisive fight, and he's not a finisher. People think he's a finisher. He only has like 2 or 3 finishes ever, even in his Muay Thai career. So, not a finisher. Frivola, going to get in those grimy decisions. Moving on.
You know it's because I got on the Pena train late, and then right off the cliff. Right off the cliff!
Then we ended up having Mackenzie Dern coming in off a pregnancy against Amanda Ribas. I had Ribas all week long. I switched it over to Dern. Dern. I ended up going again.
I don't remember him ever having Ribas.
Oh, really? I feel like I was even saying it. I think she can keep it standing.
Oh, maybe you changed on air?
I changed on air because the tape I ended up last seeing on Ribas, she kept leaving her head on a center line where that's where that right hand kept on landing for Dern. Dern threw that the whole 3 rounds of the fight, but Ribas actually used amazing head movement, threw 4 to 5 punches for every one for Dern. Dern throwing the same combination over and over again, couldn't get it to the ground. Once Dern wasn't able to get it to the ground, it was Ribas' fight. Big underdog coming through for Ribas.
Ugh.
I stayed away from this thing. I actually had a little bit of Dern on my DraftKings, and this one probably hurt me more than all of them.
I never have been high on Dern ever. I've actually been a Dern hater. And this time, I'm like, hey, this time, Dern. Rebus looked amazing out there, but don't get high on her because Dern looked like Garbooty. There's nothing she did good. She needs to go to just wrestling camp. Just working on takedowns.
She's not gonna. The way she's talking about all her camps, everything is molded to her. And I even said it on the breakdown, like, it could be good or bad where everything's turned to her, or now that I think it's breastfeeding, she lost certain weight but didn't do the time in the gym because she's like, I'm on weight, why do I have to go to the gym? Because she already finds excuses outside of that. Hence why she got kicked out of other gyms, which we don't hear any fighters that really happen to.
I'm definitely all off Dern.
That
totally was the
agree.
Worst stuff I ever seen. It was uncomfortable to watch. It looked like they were in two totally different classes. It looked
that's
not
Amanda
right.
Rebus, so don't get all hyped on Rebus by any means whatsoever.
I thought she looked like she put it together nicely in there, but she did have a punching bag. But that was definitely another pick that hurt me.
Then we ended up having one that we were one-sided on. Nico, the Price is Right.
I talked shit. Not ever on Price. I'm always high on Price, but I did have Vic on air. But I did change once weigh-ins happened. I changed.
Once you saw James Vic weigh in with a t-shirt every time. James Vic ended up weighing in with a t-shirt. Evil Twin ended up texting me being like, he's skinny fat. He's that skinny fat. And he really was 170 pounds. He just maybe in that Dern situation where he's like, cool, I don't have to be on the road. I don't have to do that cardio. But it didn't even matter because this went all of 1 round, 1 minute, 44 seconds. This is a 4 finishes in a row against Vic, and some of the worst we've ever seen. It's time, my friend. This is for me personally. Get on out of here, and it's for your own health. And that's because we were there in person, and we saw how long it took to wake you up. That's not good. I don't care what the CT scan says. That's not good for your brain, what happened to you in there. He ended up getting taken down by Nico Price.
The way his body was folded and his knees all bent back and his head. Even Herb Dean unfolded him.
The doctors,
literally unfolded his legs and
put him exactly in the position they wanted to, and he was just stiff as nails the entire time. But this was an up kick that was landed heel right to the face. After a reversal, Nico Price initiated the takedown, got an easy double leg. James Vic ended up reversing it there. He ended up moving up to land ground and pound and then ate that heel, literally ate it. He was completely out.
Do we know if his jaw's broken?
It is not broken. His CT scan came out clean via himself, saying he doesn't have TBI, no lacerations, none of that stuff. But he did tear his MCL, ACL when he collapsed on himself. Because, again, he was a noodle man.
Oh, it was so bad. The way his legs looked were awful.
Again, as you're saying, Herb Dean unraveling him with the doc in there, folded him up, and he was just... They were pushing on the bottom of his feet to try to wake him up.
Yeah, we were like, oh my gosh, can he not feel his legs?
The entire crowd got up, standing ovation when he woke up, because everybody took a gasp in there just like, ooh, that's not good. So, again, stylistically, when it's these power guys that come out hard, that's 100% Nico Price. I'm going to bet against James Vic, but he needs like a year and a half in my eyes. Break, if not time, as I'm saying before.
If he does come back at all, he needs a lot of time.
A lot of time, and then so he can gain muscle in that time.
I agree with you. Over a year is what I'd like to see as well. I totally agree.
But he's going to have a while with that knee for sure.
What about
Hybrid?
Nico?
170 pounds? Put him in there. I mean, he's already had the Luke A shots, so I'm not going to give him Luke A again right away. He got finished. But... I mean, it's contenders. It's top 15ers. It's time to get him in there against... He's been in here for a while. We've been seeing a lot of Price. So it's time to really... But with this type of finish, 2 off of his back officially with that Randy Brown finish, which I was showing when I was doing tape study, I was like, hey, look at this. He got this finish. He just hits from weird ankles. I think he's going to get another weird finish. He's like, whoa, I've never seen that. And I was like, yeah. And then we have this. It's like, he's going to keep doing it. That's why the Price is right on Nico Price. But is he going to stay an underdog for much longer?
I think so. Like, a lot of the people that are ahead of him are still those bigger names. And because he does hit from weird angles and finish people off his back, there's a certain few guys like a Nico Price, like a Tony Ferguson, maybe like a Nate Diaz that can fight off their back. And I don't think people see it as a value. They see 100% of the time that person's in trouble, and well, they got that weird kick. So I could see him being against other names, but I don't know if I throw him in it there against the top yet, because it's still just James Vick.
At 170, I agree, but I think it's at 15.
But it is
it's a
time.
number.
He's been in there for a grip. I agree.
So it's a 5-5 winning streak. What is it? I feel like he's tied for second or third place for most finishes at 170 pounds.
Quick finish like that. Who is it? Who's your 170er?
Ooh, someone on a run, someone coming off of a win. A lot of people have been calling out Lawler. I don't like that.
No, I think Lawler's fighting Mike Perry, no?
He was calling for it. Mike Perry.
Mike Perry.
That's exactly what we were saying. There it is.
Florida boys.
There it is.
It's nasty.
And I actually believe Twitter's actually called it the Florida Man Championship with Mike Perry.
Twitter's
and
already called that out?
Yeah, I feel like...
Never original.
That's been going around the scene a little
Original as a black Chuck Taylor.
Moving on to the co-main event at 145 pounds, we had Cub Swanson coming in against Kron Gracie, the minus 2-1 underdog, come through big, put on a clinic with those body shots. I mean, the walkout, though, for Kron, win or lose, that is going to be historic. He's done it before, but to be in the background, like if I had to come out, somebody who came out to that tone of just the siren going off, one of my favorite walkouts I've ever heard. It just unreal. Ominous, very Mike Tyson-esque. It was so dope, but wasn't able to get it to the ground. Ended up trying to roll for the freaking heel hooks, trying to get... Cub down, couldn't do it, and on the feet, he ate a lot of shots. I was really surprised, honestly, that people were calling this fight of the year on Twitter, and the announcers were being like, oh, this is crazy, because the fans, I didn't really feel like really shouting too much for this one.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I was
all the
surprised
fans
when I
around
watched
us
it.
kind of didn't give a shit. They felt like Cub wasn't doing enough at all. Yeah, I was surprised that they were like, what a battle. Oh, that's what all my...
I do think Cub won all 3 rounds in there, but I don't think that it was a two-sided fight, like battle for the ages.
I totally agree.
Any means.
I think I was more surprised on the shots that Kron
and kept moving forward because he was getting body shots where you could see. And
it wasn't a throw in the towel by any means, but he looked better on his hands than I thought. But the worst fucking takedowns I have ever seen. Like, the worst. Yes, I understand Cub's good. Yes, I understand that he's beat him before in jiu-jitsu. Yes, I know Cub's a black belt, but not like really the same type. It was a little better than Mackenzie Dern, but she just had a baby 5 months ago. I was just kind of disappointed at not even try. He didn't try a different type.
Nope.
He did that weird drop down every time, and
almost
maybe a single leg.
And then he would try to grab the heels, but yeah, he reached for doubles and singles, but again, they were reaches. They weren't technically sound. So against an actual wrestler like Cub, it wasn't even close. Wasn't even close to getting a takedown in that fight. And
no, never.
On the feet, it was pretty much 3 shots to 1 for Kron.
Those are the fights I want Cub in from now on. He can fight Ryan Hall next. Isn't that the same division?
I think it might
someone
be.
Who's not going to hurt him and punch him out, and someone he can kind of really test their mettle when it comes to, because he is so well-rounded.
Right. A lot of people were actually calling Hall for Kron Gracie because of the jiu-jitsu match on the ground.
I feel like Ryan's off a 2-fight win streak.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not fair. Gracie, I don't know if he ever will make it. Yeah.
It's interesting because
I think that's kind of all she wrote in a way.
The fan I was talking with on the side right before that Cup fight, he was there to only watch Kron, and he was just like, oh, I think this is a Gracie that's going to finally be able to make a name for all of them. And I was like, out of all of them, he's probably got the best shot, but again, it's iffy. And sure, before that 3rd round was even called, he was like, all right, we out of here, buddy. And I was like, yeah, you know. The fact that Kron even is going to the athletic commission and fighting this, how do you feel about that?
What? I did not hear any of that.
Yeah, he's, what is that? Putting in notice to the refs and letting them know like he does not fucking agree and thinks that he won that fight, which...
The same thing, we'll talk... What is that? He's...
refuting?
Same. It's not that word, but same. I don't even want to try.
Appealing.
Yes.
He's appealing the
commission.
decision.
Yeah.
The decision of the fight. So he thinks he won in there. But again, I don't know what earth he's on. What planet he's on. But it wasn't the same one.
I gave Kron the second round.
Again, 29-28 at the very least. But there's nothing that would have said.
He didn't win. And
Agreed.
I wish, because I had him. And
Agreed.
so it was another fight for the Fight Pick Championships.
Down the drain.
Yeah.
Totally agreed with that one. So I'd like what you said when we were in the arena. Actually, that pick was more of a fade on Cub than it was a pick on Kron.
It was.
And it really was. But the, again, level of competition has been so high for Cub as of late. So good for him. Definitely loved Cub for a long time. Glad to see him moving forward. Give him anybody in the division. I love the Hall for either one of those fighters,
yeah,
honestly.
whatever. Either one against Hall.
Then we had the main event coming in. We had the Karate Hottie, the mom wannabe champion there against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the real champ, the violence queen herself. Jędrzejczyk coming in and putting on a masterclass. You called it 100% when we were in there. You said she hurt her foot in that second round. She hurt her foot, and I was like,
She says the third now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I thought it was the second as well.
the very end of the second that I'm like, something weird happened.
Definitely. But as you said that, I said, that's probably right. But Jędrzejczyk has fought so many times and done this so many times, she's going to fight through it and then worry about it later. And that's exactly what happened. Did you end up catching her Instagram posts, her Angela Hill posts of Angela Hill being like, I thought that was my foot.
Yeah.
I'd agree, girl. That thing was black and blue and swollen 5 times the size it was. It was definitely all sorts of hurt. She's saying now, not broken, it is sprained.
Holy shit.
For reals, right? So
Holy
she's on
shit.
vacation, having the brewskis out there. It was, I thought it was 5 rounds. 5 rounds in a row for JJ. Some people gave Watterson 1 round because of the submission attempt.
I think Watterson, I gave her the third round.
Because of that submission attempt, she ended up getting on JJ's back twice throughout the fight. JJ fighting the hands perfectly in there, doing, again, what champs do.
What happened? Or was the round too close for me to call? What was my final score? Yeah, why is it 9.75 and a 9.25?
Because that was the crowd for the global on your verdict or you're seeing.
Oh, okay.
So that's how many people, but most people ended up giving it to Joanna in there, showing the global scorecards, having it. Mainly that third, as you're saying.
Yeah, I had 49-46 and gave the third to Watterson.
And it was that submission, then takedown for Watterson. But again, other than that, it was smooth sailings for JJ. Do you give her Zhang? Does she get Zhang? Because that's what everyone's talking. Did she get Rose again? No, it can't be Rose. Can't be Rose.
I think it can be Rose, but only if one of them's wearing the belt. If we want to see the trilogy again, it has to be for all the marbles.
Agreed.
So it can be Rose, and I think all the backstory's there to make it interesting, but it's a fight for another day. Just because they do both have good names. Tatiana, in my opinion, got to the point of deserving Weili Zhang first, but I hear she's sick or injured and hurt.
Her neck is still hurt, is why she even stopped wrestling in general.
And so if that's the case, JJ gets, but they can use the title that Zhang has to just build precedence in China of the UFC and use it for a while. So if she's not going to fight Tatiana, I think Joanna gets Zhang. But otherwise, I would actually prefer Tatiana versus Joanna before either fight Zhang.
Wow. Yeah. I don't think Suarez takes that fight, honestly. I don't think so at all.
No, because she feels as though she's deserving of the title shot. But
exactly.
If she's hurt, then it obviously goes to Joanna. But otherwise, if I'm the UFC, I kind of am like, sorry, the Chinese champion is not fighting for 6 months because we're going to tour her around China and build up all this Eastern, and you guys are going to...
For me, I think it's Suarez Andrade. That's a match we haven't seen yet in the division.
In reality, Suarez for Andrade as a co-main with, even for an interim, but it's no need for it, but a co-main, and then Joanna, or in the fight card somewhere, and then Joanna versus Weili for the main. It does good for all 4 of those women because of how much respect Joanna has.
I agree.
And having them all in the same card for that.
And let even Zhang get another fight, an advantageous matchup. It'll probably be in left field, somebody we're not even talking about, like an ABC Amanda Bobby Coop. somebody out of nowhere.
No way, not for a
To
championship.
give her a winner, to give her an easy win.
I can't. There's too many queens in the division.
I think they might end up doing something like that in there. But this was definitely a hell of a fight night. Contender for fight card of the year, potentially.
So JJ, we thought she looked good, and Michelle put in, she looked like a different Michelle in there, but it just wasn't enough to keep up.
She still beats top 10 women in there.
But she's just not going to be a champion.
She's not gonna be the first mom champ.
No.
It's not gonna happen. Not with who they have at the top right now, unfortunately for her. But back to the drawing board, as she says. So good for her. I hope she gets other good fights. She should be profiled and be getting paid at this point. But I think she is, because she is, again, represented by WWE. That Joanna weight cut
bullshit threw me off. But no, I was going to have Watterson anyway. And it was an emotional thing. Sometimes certain people I get emotional on. But I should have been smarter and respect JJ. She's still a champ. And she looked good down at that weight.
Absolutely.
She made that weight no problem.
Absolutely in there. So, with the Fight Big Championships, we ended up having the scorecards finally change around after this main event. We ended up still having a good showing for Lat B here. We have Buddy in second position. Here we go. You counted off for me.
So week 2 of the Fight Pick Championships, JV on Twitch, which you can follow him on Twitter at Clout9, and it's spelled out really weird. So make sure you're following us. We'll repost this stuff, and then you can follow all these people if you want to check out their podcast and whatnot. Buddy's in second place of the week from MMA Marks. Kevin from the Backlog finished tied for second. Alpha from World Winning Federation had third. You got fourth. Grampy back got fifth. Juice from Fighting With Myself podcast got sixth. I finished in seventh. And oddly enough, Ricky, who got first place last week, got last place this week.
Wow. How the tides have turned, my friend.
Yeah, and that actually... Even though we're going to talk about where the scores are at now, and I ain't doing good, but it sure does, it hurts more the farther you fall.
That's a farther fall from the top.
Falling all the way from the top position to the bottom is like, whew.
That'll get you in the solar plexus for sure.
Yeah, so that's how week 2 finished out. And then as far as the points overall right now, Buddy's in first, JV's in second, Ricky's in third, so even with that last place of last week, he did so good the first week that he's still sitting pretty in third. Alpha's tied for third. You and Kevin and Juice are tied for fourth. I'm in fifth, and Granby back is in last place. Because he sucks. The one. I'm just kidding. I don't even know. He's probably amazing.
He's a nice guy.
He's probably going to win this whole tournament because we see how quickly a week change. I just got to get in where I can fit in.
The one person.
Yeah, the one person that I'm beating by like 2.5 points.
So definitely the way these points are changing, and as early as we are in this whole tournament, we can easily be fighting for the top very quickly, and we're going to have a bunch of shots here coming up in Boston in a 13-card bout. It's going to be a fun fight night on ESPN+. Oh man, what a card is going to be stacked. At 205 pounds, we're going to have a headlined by Chris Weidman versus Dominick Reyes.
Polo Reyes. Every time.
I know. I see Reyes and I'm like, dang it. But here at 205, it's going to be a hell of a headliner. Seeing Weidman finally get there in Boston, a fun crowd. We've gone there a few times. They usually come out Boston strong, if you know what I'm saying.
They walk the car before they go in. What is the Shipping Off to Boston movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon? What is that freaking movie? The Departed. That's a great Boston movie.
Definitely a great Boston movie in there. So
Who Farted? The Departed.
We are going to have some local guys in here, and I will say we don't have to worry about elevation, any of that kind of stuff.
A lot of massholes in Boston.
Good to know. Good to know. But I do think that Boston reps their own, as we saw in Florida this last weekend. It could play a role in the card for some of these matchups when we have the local guys coming in against
Are
Florida.
you talking about Boston Salmon?
Oh! I was talking about Boston Strong Bochniak myself. So
Boston Strong.
Exactly. With a nickname like that, I feel like you automatically get a 10-9 round before the fight even starts.
It's the last hurrah, do it again. That's what someone should walk into, the Boss Tones. There's so many fun Boston songs to walk into.
I'm sure there will be. But you know how we like to do around here. We always start from the bottom to the top, and it's going to start out with the big boys at 265 pounds. We have returning Daniel Spitz coming in against debuting Tanner Boser. Boser having a fight that fell off of his last supposed debut.
We didn't talk about any of the Twitterverse.
Oh, cripemini.
We didn't talk about any of it. We just jumped right in. So I guess we can throw it all in as we talk about it.
It's very true.
I'm sure there's other fights going on. Now it would be, people would be like, no. I've been waiting for the breakdown. You started.
It wasn't that big of a deal, so it'll be easy to mix on in there. Again, as I was saying with Boser debuting, he had a fight that we broke down. It ended up falling out short notice, but he's mainly a striker coming out of Alberta, Canada. Pitter-patters, has decision fights. He's knocked out people, throws in a good leg kick every once in a while, has 3 and 4 punch combinations. He won't necessarily knock you out even though he's a heavyweight, but he kills you by 1,000 cuts in that heavyweight division, which not a lot of guys do. Serviceable defense in there. And against Spitz, he's going to really give up a size advantage, but most people do. Spitz being 6'7" in there, one of the tallest heavyweights in there, not skyscraper level, but definitely having that tall man defense. Going back and watching tape on Spitz, he's debuted in the UFC with a 6-2 record. He lost his debut to Godbeer in the decision, beat Anthony Hamilton in a TKO, and then as of late, lost TKO punches to Walt Harris a year, 4 months ago. Spitz has low volume, not tons of power either. Will throw in the occasional teep kick, but he's really got that almost James Vick type of style, but even less volume. So I feel like easily here, Boser has shown that he can take a punch in many other fights. He can keep up a much higher output on the ground. Haven't seen much from either guy at all. So I think Boser on top just stays there, but neither guy's really even going to be shooting a takedown. Spitz really likes to get on the plum and try to land these, but even when he does, he doesn't really finish people with them. So I have the decided favorite here at -140. I think Boser can actually get him ad here as well. I feel like it happens in the second round. Give me a TKO because it's heavyweights, but I think it's more kill you again by 1,000 cuts. I think it's more of a cardio thing. Spitz is just too big for that frame. It's as we were saying with Clark, it's like the body isn't meant to move like that for that big of a guy. I think the smaller, faster Boser gets it done here as a slight favorite. TKO round number 2. Who do you have and why?
I have Boser decision. This is first fight of the night for me. I think it's a big stay away. I think both guys' volume's not really good, so then you're just crossing your fingers and hoping for a knockout. Spitz is still, it's sad it's not just a tall guy, but it's that tough guy mentality where I do think he'll be able to take the beating. And unfortunately, it's not because I don't think Boser will have the power. It's that I don't think he'll have the strength and cardio to carry it out for the whole entire fight. I think this turns into a hug fest by the end, low scoring. I have Boser decision, and I am going to put it nowhere. I actually see some people saying that Spitz could be a good underdog here, and I do think so too, because Tanner Boser has done nothing to even be at this level yet. There just hasn't been enough fights as far as MMA are concerned. So I guess Spitz, and being the first fight of the night, the UFC might see this kind of the same way, unless they're just like, let's inject freaking like right in the heart of Boston. Let's give them a fast knockout. So I could see that too, but I just think two sweaty guys hugging each other by the end. Boser decision.
Interesting. It could turn into a dirty split, and I totally agree. With heavyweights, though, it's so hard because all of them have knockout power. I love what you're saying. I'm going to probably end up going about 5% on Boser, 0 Spitz. On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying $8,600 for Tanner Boser, debuting against the 3-fight veteran in Daniel Spitz, $7,600. That's a lot of disrespect as far as DK lines. I don't know, actually, maybe, as I was saying, 5%. 5% Bozer, but first fight of the night, we usually tell you guys, stay away. There's a reason for that.
I think you put them each on a card that
because they're
doesn't
heavyweights.
matter. Each on a cheap card, and
right?
Otherwise stay away from it.
Definitely don't put all your eggs in that basket at all whatsoever. Then we move on to 185 pounds, where we have returning Kevin Holland against Brennan Allen. I couldn't get whether this was a short notice replacement or not, because again, we've had Holland come in with 4 fights in a row that he's fought off of the Contender Series as well. He lost his debut in a decision to Thiago Santos, but has rallied against John Phillips, Mearshart, and DiCiricchio decisions. Holland is one of those constant mouths in there. Dana White says, I don't care how you lost. I'll take you just because you're willing to get beat up, and has now actually had a bit of a resurgence in there, being long and lengthy, throws some unique strikes in there, not a ton of power on the ground. He doesn't mind being put to his back. He'll throw up a lot of triangles and a lot of elbows off of his back, does Holland, but he does succeed the takedown constantly. So guys will be able to take him down, and he's okay with just like, all right, I'll just keep striking from here. So he gets into those dirty splits for really wrong reasons. He allows the passes to accumulate, even though he has a good guard. But against the debuter Brennan Allen, the 12-3 fighter, is on a 4-fight winning streak, coming off of the Contender Series. He has some LFA experience as well, being the champ out of there, getting some knockouts and finishes all around the way. He last came off a win submission to Aaron Jeffrey's submission 2 months ago on the Contender Series. That's not going to happen against Holland. He's been in against better submission guys. I ended up, of course, getting into the tape on Allen, and he's got all right strikes, not the best takedowns. In the clinch, he's not good. He has a good whizzer. He gets into scrambles, does Allen, but they're not advanced scrambles. They get kind of messy. He'll get into 50-50 positions, but he has just as much of a chance, obviously, of getting reversed as his opponent. And there's a lot of times he gets reversed, and he has gassed in fights that he was finished in, where it was just that gas tank started to get tested, and he gave up easily full mount and got pounded out in there. He can eat some big shots. His cardio isn't horrible, but it's been against LFA type fighters. They do feed a lot of people into the UFC, so it is at level competition. But I just see Holland kind of rolling. If it's not a 30-27 decision, I think it could be a finish via submission, maybe in that second or third round, just because Holland has that type of experience where the jitters are also going against Allen here. Give me Holland decision right now. I think it's a decided decision. Still iffy. I don't think I'm going to be able to play him on DraftKings just because he's a little steep for a decision right now. But Allen, I'm not high on Allen. I didn't see anything that stuck out to me other than kind of a journeyman type of fighter. Who do you have in this fight and why?
Where's Kevin Holland from?
Kevin Holland is fighting out of Travis Luter, BJJ, out of Fort Worth, Texas.
I was just wondering, because this almost seems like a gimme fight for Kevin Holland to me. I have him going all 3 rounds, at least 29-28, only if he's winning the first so decisively. He takes the second round off for his cardio and then comes back strong in the third, maybe even for a third round finish. I think people are sleeping on Kevin Holland. I think he's a well-rounded, grindy guy. He has decent cardio, and he's not one of those guys that's like littered up, cut to the tits with muscle. He actually has like the guys we see that are all sliced like that never have that good cardio. Kevin Holland, people are sleeping on him. I think he's one of the sneaky guys in the division, and he isn't very exciting, and he isn't very flashy, and unfortunately in the entertainment era of this sport, fortunately, depending on what you like with UFC, he isn't just that exciting and memorable and marketable. So he's going to get this low level on the fight for a while. But if you're the UFC and you're trying to make Brennan Allen of let's build him up, this isn't a good first fight for him. I have Kevin Holland too. What's his price?
His price on DraftKings is going to be $8,900 against Allen, $7,300. He is the -155 favorite as Holland against the +125 underdog. I feel like it could be a bigger, and I'm actually surprised it's so close because I could see 2-1 Holland, and I think that's still kind of valuable. I don't know if I see the finish, though. That's where
I don't see the
DraftKings,
finish, but he stays busy the whole time.
Average 67 points on DraftKings. Average 67 points. But he's not going to pay that off at 8-9.
No. Well, I mean, it's all on the card outcome, but that's not the highest score in the world. I don't see a finish here. He does have the good ring IQ, but it's almost like he never, once the fight he's winning, he's not going to put himself in harm's way to like take that next step. So I don't know if that's smart or how you'd play it, but I guess that's why he's early on the fight card.
I'm going to go probably 10% on Holland in there, but I'm not going to be super heavy on it. Again, because of the finish is not a likely outcome, but out of both fighters, it's more likely that Holland finishes out of the two fighters.
It seems like a safe bet if there is one.
Right, if there is one, and that's where I'm surprised. Minus 155, I could see it being way more than 2-1, and people still put in money. But the lines could have already grown since the recording, I'm sure. Especially after the recording. As many fans as we have listening to the show.
Especially line changers.
So, moving on to 170 pounds, we have debuting Sean Brady coming in against longtime veteran Court McGee in here. Court McGee, 19-8 type of fighter, coming off of a split decision loss to Diego Lima. One I ended up getting right in there just because of the fade on Court McGee. He's come back from death multiple times. We all know his heroin story, known that crazy cardio. He's just always been a punching bag. He's one of those guys that you can tee off on for a round, think he's got out of there, and then the third round, he comes on super strong and can even get you out of there. And against Brady, that's something that might be a legitimate tactic in here. McGee likes to use the takedown, use that knee pick, get it there. He kind of realized, I think, especially after that Lima fight, that striking, he does have a disadvantage. But against Brady, what I ended up seeing in the perfect 10-0 fighter was a good, solid wrestler with the same knee pick and actually good double and single legs in there. He throws a hard overhand right with serviceable striking and is definitely someone who deserves to be here. He's coming out of their Renzo Gracie Philadelphia scene specifically. It's a young blood versus an old veteran. I've been fading the veteran as of late, but I feel like he deserves a lot of respect here, does McGee, because he knows how to turn this into a grimy fight, where I've seen Brady on the regional scene have more of his way with regional fighters. McGee's not going to roll over for anyone, even in a dirty split. It's a hard fight for whoever fights in there. So I think this is a big step up in competition for Brady. And I see a lot of people coming in on Brady, but I feel like McGee, once he gets this to the ground, I don't think I saw Brady get back up, or it was hard for him even on the regional scene. And I think he's getting overly hyped. He has a bunch of finishes on the regional scene, but again, they're regional guys. McGee, even though he's on the back nine of his career, he's definitely UFC teetering level. I think this is going to be a way tougher fight than most people think. I thought I was going to switch Evil Twin. Keeps coming in telling me, like, what are you doing? Brady's got tons of finishes, tons of power. He throws good body shots in there as well. But I think McGee takes it all, and in that third round is like, hey, kid, this is what I do. Lima had that veteranship. Brady doesn't. Give me the underdog with Court McGee. Ooh. Big underdog here. It's scary. I'm not telling everyone to jump on here, but I see an advantage in the cardio and the wrestling specifically, but the punching power does go to Brady in this shot. Who do you have and why?
I do see what you're saying, and I do think this fight's a lot closer than everybody jumping aboard Brady. That being said, I have Brady to win by decision because I do think Court McGee's one of those guys that will just take 1,000 body shots and turtle up and block his head and just take punches the whole entire fight. He is grimy. I like the late round cardio, but I don't see a late round finish. And I think by the time Sean punches himself out, I think Court he can't do enough. There's not enough time for him to make up the deficit. I have Sean not by a finish because I think Court is everything you're saying and not a walkthrough. I have Sean by decision. I was actually on the fence where I could have gone Court decision. When I was pulling pictures for these, I just thought his body looked like I'd never seen it before.
I've been fading McGee.
So I actually have Brady decision, but I don't think it's going to be a finish, and I think it's going to be lower scoring than people think.
100%. And on DraftKings, for the debuting decided favorite, you're going to end up paying $9,200 for the minus 235 favorite against McGee, 7,000 plus 185 underdog. There's worse underdogs I've taken by far in this spot, and the line is off here as far as my eyes. This should be a much closer fight, especially with those type of intangibles in there. So, give me McGee. Court in there, I don't know how heavy I'm going to go, because as you're saying, it's not going to be a high scorer, but it's not going to be a high scorer for Brady if he doesn't get him out of there. So, value, by far, 700 is on Court there. I think he can, though.
I don't see a finish, and Court doesn't just sit there and not do anything.
Right.
Even if he loses by decision, he will probably at least get a takedown, maybe 2 in the whole fight, but he does throw hands the whole time.
I think it's a dirty type of split.
I think this is a dog or a pass.
100% agreed. 100% agreed, and I'm taking that dog. I'm going to probably go like 10-10 on this fight for Brady, because out of the two to get the finish, it's Brady with that power. So again, untested prospect against veteran, which I feel like is going to be the theme for the night. And to take that back, we like to go on themes. You were trying to go on that mom theme when it was actually...
But it was all moms or
no moms. Just like all of our themes. It's all one team or all not.
Yeah.
So play it like you want it in here.
All city kickboxing, no city kickboxing. All moms, no moms. So no moms won last week. So yeah, what one are you trying to make?
I'm not. I'm just trying. I'm trying to
all
find
vets,
one.
No vets, or
exactly. That's more because we are seeing again debuters against guys with like 8, 9, 10 fights in the UFC. Like that, they're not nobodies. Again, maybe just a little bit later in their career. Anything left with that bout at 170 pounds?
No.
Moving on to the bantamweights, we have a 135-pounder with Randy Costa. Randy coming in against Boston Salmon, not from Boston.
Randy got them Frida Kahlo eyebrows.
Randy Costa being 4-1 coming out of the Luozon scene. So his quarterman for his last fight that he lost in the UFC is now going to be training.
All lows on, no lows on.
Oh!
Because I'll already tell you right now, no lows on.
Before we get any deeper into it, so we have Costa getting his first loss in the UFC, submission over Brandon Davis, who just has been losing other than that fight, essentially. Costa coming in with a heavy kick game, knocked out a bunch of regional guys. He knocked out a bunch of me's on the regional scene with kicks and was like the next hype train. Again, gives up takedowns too easily, can't get up off of his back. We saw that against Davis. Submissions, not so comfortable, even though he's come out of Lausanne. But it's, again, he's had 5 fights pro ever, and now he's in the UFC. Just the level of competition is just that much better. Boston Salmon having a bit of a hype train, coming in with a 6-2 record. He last was a favorite against Khalil Taha, ended up getting finished 5 months ago in seconds. I mean, first overhand right pretty much, and it was a 2-1 favorite that went out the door there. Salmon showing that he's been tough in other fights. He gets dropped but can usually rally. He ended up getting a win decision over his Contender Series fight off of a loss in his RFA to Riley Split. But Salmon has been always on the regional scene as an all-around journeyman. He's a good wrestler, good off of his back. Not tons of power, but good angles on his shots as well. In a fight where Boston Salmon's chin might not have looked good as of kind of what have you done lately, Randy Costa's a nightmare for him because he's the type of guy who will throw a crazy question mark kick, heel, or knee, elbow, just something that you don't see coming. And Salmon has shown that his lights will go completely James Vick out in there if he gets touched up. So I think the better MMA fighter all the way around is Boston Salmon, especially if he takes it to his wrestling. There is a big gap in difference in Randy Costa's ground game to his strikes, and that's an avenue most people should be looking at to finish him. But standing for those first 2 to 3 kicks that Randy Costa fights, I'm going to be clenching my teeth, hoping Salmon can drag this later into the fights. But the further this fight goes on, the more I'm comfortable with Salmon winning it. Gave me Boston Salmon decision. I could see myself actually playing some Randy Costa in there because he could be that flash finish out of the two by far because of that power. So I'm going to be tentative on Salmon in this decision as far as DraftKings. Who do you have and why?
I have Boston Salmon by decision. This is like, if I had a percentage of how sure I am of this one, it would be in like the 30 percentile. I don't feel good about this either way. Either guy could finish, either guy could decision, could be a split decision. It's just one of those fights that it just doesn't pull me in any direction, and it doesn't pull me that one guy's going to get a super high score or that it's just going to fall flat altogether. I have Boston Salmon decision by his experience in the UFC, and because of the amount of time he took off from his knockout, I'm fine. It's been almost 6 months. I got to think he's that much better, and I like the prospect that he was going into it. I don't think Randy Costa is necessarily Taha. So I have Boston Salmon decision. I'm going to kind of stay away from this, I think. What are their prices?
Totally agree. On DraftKings, Boston Salmon being the decided minus 175 favorite is 9,000 even on DraftKings against Randy Costa 7,200.
I don't like that. So far you haven't told me over a 9,000 person that I really am into.
I totally agree with that. As I'm saying, I feel like Costa's more of the play as far as DraftKings here, because if Salmon gets the win, it's probably a decision. He can finish on the ground via submission as well out of the two, but if it's a flash knockout, it's definitely Costa. I think I might have a little bit of Costa more there than Salmon, but it's too steep for Salmon.
The Zohan.
I like Randy a whole lot better myself. Trailer Park Boys, if you know what I'm talking about. Anything left with that one at bantamweight, 145 pounds. Moving on to featherweight, 145 pounds.
Is it so queer that Boston Salmon's fighting in Boston?
I agree, and he's not a Bostonian.
Yeah, it's almost like a concert. Like, you can't wear a Kiss t-shirt to the Kiss concert. Not that I even Kiss, like, out of all the bands that I could have said.
Very, very
What's a
true.
Kiss song that you think of?
Love Gun.
How does that go? I know.
Love Gun.
I think God gave rock and roll to you. Gave rock and roll to you. That's all. Yeah, that's all I got.
That was a good one for sure. Thought we were having a little live show here locally at Lab B. So moving on to the bantamweight or the featherweights, we have Kyle Boston Strong Bochniak coming in against debuting Sean Woods off of the Contender Series, a short notice replacement. Made a big showing, knocking out Terrence McKinney with a amazing finish. I believe it was a knee in there finally that got it done, but Sean Woods just showing tons of heart in there, getting picked apart that first round. Really go back and watch that fight. It'll tell you everything you need to know. Being a big underdog in there, he did not let anything get to him. He has great teeps to the body. He's really interestingly framed in here. He has a 79-inch reach at 6'2", at 145 pounds, but he throws a teep hard into the body. That really adds up. He goes to the body well and puts together good combinations in the clinch. Woodson's someone to worry about as well. Gives up the takedowns a little bit, but he throws up nasty triangles, a lot of kicks, and stays active off of his back. Definitely like what I saw from Woods. Here's someone that I was like, ooh, watch out for this guy. He's going to be trouble for anyone, especially with short notice. In the third round, he got that finish, and it was all heart. So against Boston Strong, it's going to be an uphill battle here. Bochniak has had multiple fights in the UFC, being 8-4, losing his last 4 out of 3, losing 3 out of his last 4 in the UFC against Brandon Davis. He ended up beating Enrique Barzola. Who else did he end up beating in there? Brandon Davis, he got a split decision. Then he ended up losing to Zabit in a decision. That was officially his coming out party. And then lost a split decision to Akeem Duwadu. Bochniak has good Muay Thai, good wrestling in reverse where he can keep the fight where he wants to. He moves forward nonstop, has great 4 or 5 punch combinations. Chin for days, we've seen it on point. He moved down to American Top Team. He's out of Florida. So interesting that he actually moved out of his first showing at home to go down to Florida. It's not going to matter. You have Boston Strong in your name. You're the local guy. You're going to have the crowd on your side. But I do think actually that stylistically, the way that Bochniak moves so forward and eats a lot of shots, he's willing to eat 2 or 3 shots to land his 3 or 4, and he gets in these dirty type of decisions for that type of reason. He's got all the heart for days, but I feel like moving in on shots on Woodson, the way Woodson sets up his shots, he hits with power, and especially that front body attack. I feel like very quickly Bochniak is going to start to eat shots to the body, and then his forward pressure is going to change, and Bochniak isn't as good of a counter striker he is moving forward, where I think Woodson ends up taking this as the underdog near even. Give me the debuter here. I think the size plays a role, and I think specifically that front body attack plays a role. This is going to be a fun one. This is a coin flip for a reason. I got Woodson decision. I could even see a late 3rd round type of finish again. This is hype. This could be fight of the night. I'm actually really excited for this. The crowd, though, especially because we just watched Rivola, the crowd's going to be going crazy anytime Bochniak lands a strike. Anytime he moves forward.
The judges, what we just saw. So if you think it's going to go to decision, that gets sketch.
Totally sketch.
It's weird. I have Woodson decision here too, but more so because I just think Bochniak is so... Who cares? He's just a punching bag. He's kind of a guy that it's like he's making other fighters look good because he stays alive 3 rounds while they just pick him apart. But that doesn't say much to me. And everyone's like, oh, well, he went against Zabit. He went 3 rounds with Zabit. Yeah, he did nothing in that fight. He did absolutely nothing. It was almost uncomfortable. So it's like he's one of those guys that if it's fight of the night, it's just by the amount of abuse he can take and noise he can make, because he'll also wave his arms and be like, come on, like, keep punching me and beating me up because I'm not doing anything.
Keep scoring DK points on me.
Yeah, I have Woodson by decision as well. I didn't know he was going to be an underdog. I just thought, how could Kyle Bochniak ever be a favorite? So this is not that I want to get high on Woodson here. It's just my lack of trust in Bochniak at any level in the UFC. So if he's going to win one, it's going to be a guy on short notice, and I just think he got the wrong guy on short notice. Give me Woodson decision. I know that's weird because we just said that, but I just think he's going to land more every round, that it will be a little too egregious to steal it all the way.
I totally agree, but we could see a big jump. Bochniak is 32 years old, but he went down to ATT, which we usually find very beneficial. Bochniak, slight favorite, minus 130 at 8,400 on DraftKings against the underdog, plus 100.
I think Bochniak's going to get taken down.
Interesting. 7,800 for Woodson. We both have a decision, 7-8. I feel like I have a couple underdogs so far, so I'm going to have money left on the table, but I like Woodson in that spot. I'm going to be low owned, probably actually in that 20% range, more than most people. I feel kind of comfortable with that. So,
I feel even more comfortable that you think so too. That's how, hearing it, I'm like, okay, maybe I will play Woodson. I was going to stay away from this altogether, but because I was it felt uneasy because of Bochniak's experience in the UFC. But now I'm like, okay, I feel a little more confident with it.
Definitely. Anything left with either one of those fighters?
No.
Moving on to 125 pounds at flyweight, we have Molly, the Meatball Mickhand, coming in against debuting Diana Delbita. Diana, the Warrior Princess, is coming in with a 13-4 record, and she's been fighting waitresses and servers for her career. Low records. I mean, 4-1, a lot of 0-0 or 0-2 type of fighters.
Deja vu. So before you even say anything, I'm like, this pick is gonna be good. This is gonna be the pick. What about if I totally disagree with you?
We'll see. But the Warrior Princess in here really comes in with a hairdo style is the most I remember from her, having that ponytail bun where it's all individually wrapped. It goes everywhere. Striking, keeps her head on the line. On the ground, against the regional competition I saw her against out of Romania, it wasn't good at all. There was actually a lady I saw, Ivany, coming out of the Francis Ngannou gym in France, where I was like, who's that? Why didn't they sign her? That's a contender. The lady who finished her. But here, the Warrior Princess ended up getting back to the 0-0 fighters to boost up her career, and is just getting in here to beef. And once she gets to the ground, she is absolute trash in striking. She keeps her head on a center line. she hits with a little bit of power and will throw up a kick off of the same side punch. I believe it's a left punch, left kick that's caught regional women. But against Molly McCann, someone who's fought UFC, who's fought caliber competition now, it's just plays into her style perfectly, especially as of late where we've seen McCann start to actually use her wrestling. If she is confident, if Meatball's confident in her wrestling as she was last fight, this is a run-through fight. This is a TKO round number 1 or 2 ground and pound. And I'm not high on Molly McCann. I've talked as much shit as anyone on Meatball, thinking she's a low-caliber fighter. But Diana here doesn't deserve to be in the UFC. We've been saying this a lot, I think, as of late because of how many cards we've been having. And this is one of those. I'm actually not surprised it's 4-1 favorite. Rightfully so. Meatball is by fast, better striker. She might not have as much power, but once the tape darts start rolling, Diana doesn't get back up off of the ground. She hasn't proven it at all and actually shown really bad ground defense in every facet. So I don't need to talk about it anymore. Give me Meatball. Heavy favorite for a reason. I think she easily runs away with this. Give me a TKO ground and pound run number 2. I'm not high on Meatball, guys. I don't think she's a contender. But she'll beat the living daylights out of this lady. I'll tell you that right now.
I also have Molly KO round number 2. I think she's better everywhere. I think she could even finish this round number 1. She is somebody, not only is she better everywhere, every facet with this woman, she's also somebody who's gotten so much better every fight out in the UFC. If you go watch her first fight to her last fight, leaps and bounds of growth. She's somebody that's really taken it seriously, and we bring it up here a lot. You can see when she became a full-time fighter, even the way her body changed. I love everything that Molly's doing. I kind of am high on Molly, and maybe I have been for a while. Maybe it's her nickname. Maybe it's because I'm hungry. But I like Molly McCann. I said I had to, I looked over at yours and you had decision for her. And when I was like, oh, deja vu, I didn't see that yet. I was like, oh, deja vu, this is going to be the pick. And I was just like, maybe not his, maybe it's mine. And then you changed yours to what I had and you didn't see mine. I was on a different screen. So I think we both agree to boot, and I had deja vu about it. I think, Molly McCann, she finishes it in round 2. I think you put her everywhere. I think that's your player over 9,000. I'm guessing if it's 4-1.
I'm guessing so as well. 9,400 on DraftKings. I feel like the highest priced. I believe it is. I didn't see anyone at 9.5. So Molly McCann being the biggest favorite of the night, being the biggest favorite on DraftKings, she's going to be highly owned. Diana, I don't think she wins many other fights out here outside of this, so
it's the 125 division.
Definitely. McCann going to probably be that 20-30%, but everyone's going to have her, so mix it up in there. We got some other underdogs that are going to allow that.
I don't know if everyone will have her because she isn't a hardcore. I feel like the main card always gets played a little more, even throughout the fights, and then more well known. I don't think she is necessarily the most well known. The hardcores obviously know who Meatball is, but I think it might be an okay finish. And I don't think people typically think the women are going to finish.
I agree. So Meatball is the side I'm on. No Diana, Warrior Princess, anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. Do not do that. Don't ruin your cards on that one. Anything left with that one?
No.
On to 145 pounds of featherweights. We have Manny, the Triangle, Bermudez against Charles Rosa Boston Strong. Who was I calling Boston Strong? Bochniak?
Everyone. I've said that so many times.
Bochniak is Crash. He's from Boston. Dang it. So, I just saw it in all the workups. I saw Altz's tape and was like, he is too good for him. Good. They're all Boston Strong if you're from Boston.
It just reminds me of the marathon, the Boston Marathon.
Yes, that's exactly what I think of too. So they're all Boston Strong. 100%. Charles Rosa is going to be the local favorite here, 11-3. He lost only in the UFC. Has only lost in the UFC. Coming out of the tough house. He's got checkered wins as of late, winning, losing some. Coming off of a loss TKO to Burgos over 2 years ago, having 2 fights fall out since then. He got a win over Kyle Bochniak in a decision. Rosas all the way around, serviceable. He's one of these guys I always bring his external job, which has always been he is a Michelin star cook, chef.
Yeah.
So that's a full-time job in itself. He usually takes 6 to 8 months, he said, for his last training camps, but they both fell out. So I'm assuming this one was going to probably be in that 4 to 6 month range that he got to take off to do this. But somebody who's always had a foot in something else, which we usually like to sway away from around here because you kind of got to give it your all. He's got something in the back door there. But Rosa's serviceable, as I was saying.
Not really in the back door.
But Rosa's off of his back. Throws a lot of volume, a lot of triangles. We don't have to worry about that against a submission guy like Bermudez. Striking, not a ton of power, but throws a lot of good kicks up and around there. It's just his strike picking for Rosa isn't the best. Just some of the combinations he likes to throw. He has to kill you by 1,000 cuts. So when he throws his 3-punch combination and ends with the body, that return shot is usually harder and he doesn't wear the damage well. Rosas gets hurt in a lot of shots, but he has had a lot of time off, so he has healed from that. But I don't feel like his fight style is just conducive. He just always, his head's bouncing around in there. It's never really been that good. Bermudez, though, isn't the best striker. He's somebody who likes to get it to the ground. He's known as the Bermudez triangle in there, because he likes to get triangle chokes, likes to get arm triangles specifically as well. He's coming off of his first loss being 14-1 to Casey Kenny in there, where Kenny used his wrestling in reverse a month, 3 weeks ago to keep it standing and showing how Bermudez is definitely lacking in that striking and definitely has issues in that third round when he can't get the takedown. Kenny was moving up in weight there, but we had Bermudez actually having the issue with the takedown, and then it was also the gas tank, as I was saying. This is an up in weight type of bout, though, for Bermudez. It is a month ago that he lost, but he is going to move up from 135, so he might have a better gas tank, but I don't think necessarily, as I was saying on other fights, that moving up gives you a better gas tank. It just means you don't do the road work, so you could even have worse gas in here, and Rosas has the type of takedown defense to keep it where he wants to. This is a dirty split.
I don't think it doesn't mean you do the road work, because I don't even think that's where people cut the
real
unnecessary weight.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all water weight at that point. I think that the better all-around fighter is Rosas, but Bermudez has worse striking but more power, and Bermudez on the ground is a little more dangerous. I can see myself picking Rosas by the end of the week. Right now, give me Bermudez decision. This is a coin flip. I'm not heavy on either guy right now, and I think it's a decision either way. I got decision right now. Bermudez. I'm tentative on this fight. Who do you have and why?
Charlie Rosa looked awful in his last fight, and then he beat Kyle Bochniak in a decision, which I just expressed to you how I feel about Kyle Bochniak, so a win in that is no thing, and everyone's like, oh, well, he went to split with Yair. So I think Yair is so overrated, and we'll talk about that again later, but I know you guys heard it last time he was about the fight. Manny Bermudez isn't necessarily a guy with great striking. He's not even a guy with great takedowns, and I should be swayed off this by everything we watched with jiu-jitsu just happened in Tampa, but I just think Bermudez is that next level on the ground that Charles Rosa doesn't have, and I think he's a younger age, so the amount of advancement, we're going to see him get better and better every fight. I think this is a gimme fight for the local guy. I think this is a setup fight for Manny Bermudez to get him fighting in Massachusetts. So I actually think Bermudez is going to finish this. I'm going to have him on a lot of cards, and I have him to finish Rosa round 2 by submission.
On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying $8,700 for the -140 favorite Manny Bermudez against Charles Boston Strong Rosa, $7,500 on DraftKings, the +110 underdog. I could see myself putting both guys on cards, honestly. But I actually see Rosas a little bit more just because
I see him
he's
getting
cheaper.
Finished.
You see a finish completely.
Yeah, and actually,
8-7.
I will say Casey Kenny is such an underrated guy. He's going to do so much damage going forward, and if you ever find him as an underdog, you should put him on cards. Most of the guys I would put Casey Kenny beating the guys that Charles Rosa fought. So Manny Bermudez, yeah, I'm going to have him on cards. Not everywhere, because I don't like that what I saw last week just left a little scary in my mouth waiting for that submissioner's chance. But I don't think it is that. I think he's a young guy that's actually getting better every time. I'm not really scared. I think Charles Rosa is what it is. I think the best thing about Charles Rosa to me is the American top team pedigree right there. Because if he can just keep the takedown defense, he should be okay. You know, safe enough standing up that it at least goes to decision. But even that I give to Bermudez.
Definitely going to be a fun one in there. I think you're going to be able to mix it up. I'll have 20% Bermudez, 10% Rosa in spots in there. So it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be the headlining preliminary bout on ESPN. This is going to be before we get into the 6-card main event. So we're going to have 6 picks in this Fight Pick Championship. You know we're coming for that strap. You know we're coming for the belt.
Last week when I made the card, I need to think about it from now on going forward. The pay-per-views only have 5 cards on the 5 fights on the main event. The other ones, ESPN, always put 6 now. So I have to remember that when making the card. So when we're putting up our mains on our server where we post our picks for the Fight Pick Championships.
Definitely. And if you want our specific cards when they do come out, you know to find me at Zoltanite, at Weakneck Baby. You can always get us at latb_MMA.
And when he says at Weakneck Baby, for the ones who don't watch on YouTube, he always points at me.
Every time.
So that is me. But you can also make sure you're following us. So if you want to follow the other hooligans who we're doing this contest with, because this is where it starts. This is where it gets evil. This podcast isn't what we're held accountable to. So it is, you really do have to tune in at the last minute to see what our picks are going to be.
Very, very true. Who would you say is somebody you could see as a dark horse in this Fight Pick Championship? Because I have one off the top of my head.
Me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Definitely a dark horse.
Because a dark horse has to come from the back. Otherwise, when I listen to the other podcasts, I actually agree a lot with what Buddy says. But he's already sitting at the top. So calling him a dark horse would be ridiculous. He's sitting at number 2. So myself, I actually, the shit I'm going to talk is, I think Ricky will finish in one of the last places.
Oh, damn, Ricky. She's coming for you, boy.
Yeah.
She's coming for you.
Yeah, I talk shit. What? I talk shit. What? The other, the backlog, I listen to his picks. I think he's going to get more into it the more it comes on. He has a lot of old school knowledge, which could pay off in the future, but UFC is such a different game now than it was. So I just don't think he's geeking out, but I kind of like that. He's almost like throwing it at a dartboard to prove like that could be, if he's beating me and he just is like, I like that guy's name better right now. You know, whatever.
Sure.
So it shows like it doesn't matter how much you study sometimes. It's still a...
That's why I was going to say I think the Worldwide Winning Federation there might be one of those. Because I feel like...
That candy ass! That candy ass! He ain't got shit! He can't do shit! Sorry.
You know, we coming for you. We coming because the creep rises to the top.
You're sitting in a good spot. Like where you're sitting right now is exactly... I don't think that's dark horse either. Otherwise, I would have obviously said you. But that's not dark horse. You're sitting right in the middle. And that's kind of like if you were a DraftKings card... Those are the ones you want. The ones sitting in the middle.
The ones right in the middle where you're like, oh, okay, he could be good or bad there. But it could sway either way. So definitely liking those. It's a fun championship. You guys should follow
everyone. There's all sorts of different people. It's not... we could be in a real world house. Like, none of the podcasts are the same. So I think they're entertaining and interesting. And you guys should check everyone out onto the main card.
We have 185-pound bout starting off the main card with returning Darian Wynn against Darren the Dentist Stewart. Wynn coming off a fight of the night potential at 6-0 perfect against Eric Spicely on short notice 3 months ago. That was a banger. Go back and watch it. It was all sorts of fun. But when I really look back at it, I'm like, that's Eric Spicely. It's Eric Spicely. You got in a freaking fight for your life in. So that's someone who was banished already to the regional scene and only was brought back because he was willing to take a fight on 5-day notice. So it's definitely something. When I went back and watched the tape, Spicy was landing a lot of shots, and Spicy's a jiu-jitsu guy. Again, not something that really stuck out in the benefiting category of the fight for Win. But he does tend to be that wrestler who will shoot a single leg in there every once in a while. But he'll usually just use that single leg to get to the clinch and throw his dirty boxing. He is legitimately like 5'6" in there.
Yeah, he has to get on the inside.
Exactly. He can't fight at range. He's only going to give up a 3-inch reach advantage to the dentist. But he's definitely looks like the shorter, stockier guy in here. He is moving down to 185 pounds. Yeah, I feel like he was at 205 on the regionals and stuff, but he's definitely making that hard weight cut. So he's someone we're going to have to watch out for because he's stoutly built. Like, when you see him, you're like, oh, I can see why he's every bit of that weight in there. Likes to throw that overhand right over. He has a good left body shot to an overhand right as well. Has about a 3 to 4 punch combination or repertoire in there, and then that's about it. It's really a kickboxer. He'll throw in the leg kick occasionally, does Win, but it's really more a dirty boxer and throws at them hands. And against Darren the Dentist Stewart, we've seen a gradual growth in his game. At 10-4, he's had nothing but high-level competition in the UFC, coming off of a win to Devin Lewis in a decision, losing to, who was that he lost
Edmund
to?
Shabazian.
Shabazian in what was it, a submission? Split decision?
Golden Boy.
The Golden Boy, but beating Bird in a comeback win. Also beating Eric Spicy TKO. The Dentist is known to be the Dentist because he'll knock your damn teeth out in there, and that's rightfully so. Stewart lands precision right hands, sets him up well with like little double traps. He'll paw the first hand down and then come in with that right. And Darren Stewart, or Win in there, I mean, was eating those shots from, again, Spicy. I feel like Stewart landing those shots will put it much better together. He's shown great takedown defense, especially as of late. I think Stewart actually looks better in the third round, even than Win, but Win had tons of output. I feel like Win threw 80 strikes in that first round and kept up that pace that first time with Spicy. So this is going to be a firefight, but again, I think the precision shots for Stewart are going to get there. I think it's a TKO round number 2. I think Stewart makes the adjustments. He's the better striker in here. Win is more of a, if he were using his advantages, he'd TKO ground and pound you, but he likes to kickbox. So I actually think in a kickboxing match, Darren Stewart is going to go hit you with that jab slightly to set that right, and then it's going to be set. And I think we see Darren Stewart get finished in there. Underdog or the near even. This is a damn coin flip of a fight. Minus 115. Darren Stewart, TKO round number 2. Who do you have and why?
I've gone back and forth on this fight, and I actually don't have it going the same way at all. I think it's going to be heavy at first, but Darren Wynn, the game plan of what he was doing against Spicy, that cannot be the same thing that he even thinks is going to happen with Darren Stewart. Darren Stewart going to a split decision with Shabazian, and you know how much I love Edmund. I just think Edmund's one to watch, and Bevan Lewis is no sleeper. Darren Wynn, he's a little there because of the AKA, but I also think he has that AKA where he gets on the inside short guy thing with a big overhand right. I think he could eke this out, but I have either guy winning a decision. Right now I have it going to Stewart because I just think it's going to look a little cleaner in there and, like you're saying, more precise. And from further distance when it's happening, the combinations are going to lay. I think Stewart wins the distance and range game, but Wynn's going to win the whole inside game. I think this is going to be another dirty split, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be low scoring. I just right now have Stewart, but I had Wynn yesterday. So it could go back.
Weigh-ins. We got to watch weigh-ins.
I am curious. Did you say he was moving down to 185 or you already
I believe he is moving down to 185. I don't think that last fight. I thought it was 205. And they finally talked him into it. I could be wrong there.
I think so, because if Eric Spicely fought Stewart before at 185, however, it was like a year and 4 months ago, unless Eric Spicely's going up and down too, which I'm not saying that he isn't. But I don't remember what the last one was at.
So on DraftKings, you're going to end up paying $8,200 for Win against $8,000 even for Stewart. I mean, slight underdog. I'm going to get $200 left over. I actually...
Ooh, that is so close because I have a pick'em right now on mine, 115.
That is so close.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have exposure to both guys on this one.
I feel like I might have exposure to neither. No, Stewart. I could see myself speckling win just because of the high output, but I'm kind of scared with Darren Stewart. I don't see a finish happening.
Moving on to 125 pounds, we have returning youngest UFC fighter on the roster, Macy Barber, coming in against Jillian Robertson being 7-3, being a long-time UFC fighter now, having multiple fights off of the Tough House, getting a loss in there over who'd she lose to? Macedo in there, but getting wins over Sarah Froda as of late. She beat Macedo. She lost to Silva decision.
Froda, who popped for everything after that fight.
Absolutely everything.
Everything.
Unreal. Wow. Definitely. We usually like Jillian Roberts here, Port St. Lucie's own. You know, like we like that Instagram. I know other you guys have been saying, I don't know why, but I like our Instagram. It's that dental floss, buddy.
And all that muscle definition getting added on.
Definitely. All them legs for sure, but the
you got
Florida
your booty
native,
out, pink hair and a booty. You got your Port St. Lucie booty.
We thought we saw Roberts at the UFC. Robertson at the UFC over the weekend. It was just a doppelganger as well in there. So either way, Port St. Lucie's own.
Anyone with pink hair that we saw, we were like, Jillian! Oh, that's not her.
Oh, no, that is not Jillian Roberts. So
that ain't her.
But Roberts comes in with a jiu-jitsu game coming out of that American Top Team. She's been...
It was like how little an airplane looks in the sky, and then when you're walking next to a jetliner, you're like, whoa, this thing's enormous.
Roberts likes to get it done on the ground. Jiu-jitsu ace. She's a black belt down there. Been a Dean Thomas disciple for a long time. Striking has been getting a lot better, especially as of late, as of Froda. Really been more and more confident. She actually called out Macy Barber after Macy Barber called out PVZ, and she's like, oh, she's hiding from me, and Macy's like, hiding? Okay. Ended up taking that fight quick, fast, and in a hurry. That was about 3 weeks ago. I feel like I saw that, maybe 4. So both of these AEDs having a quick camp to get in here. Roberts has to get it to the ground because striking wise, even though it's getting better, there is times, even against why I picked Froda, is Robertson shies away from some of those heavier strikes in there. And as of late, Macy Barber has debuted in the UFC, a perfect 7-0. She beat JJ Aldridge, which I'm actually fairly high on. Also beat Hannah Cifers, who's come out to be a little bit of an underdog in here. But she did that later in both rounds, and she did that on the Contender Series. The gas tank for Macy Barber is high level. She is one of these kids that grew up in karate and all that, but she uses it a lot. She actually uses a whizzer really well. The takedowns that have been shot on her, she's been able to defend well on the ground. Isn't where she stands out, but she does know what she needs to do, and that's get back up, where she's much more athletic and throws a much higher volume and variety here, where I think she can overwhelm Jillian. And I had Jillian Roberts up until this morning. When I got done through all my other tape, I go back and start watching the tape of more of the recent fighters, and I'm like, Macy Barber has that it where she's trying to finish the fight from the first to the third round, and that can really dissuade a lot of fighters, and I feel like Robertson is a front runner. When she's doing good...
Have we seen her in a 3-round fight ever?
Jillian?
No, Macy.
Macy, yeah, on her Contender Series fight, she went into the third round, and I thought with JJ she went in the third. It was a KO in the third, though. And I think even for Cifers, it was a second or third as well. But that's where I'm saying, because she can still put up that pace in that third round, just throwing tons of kicks, tons of volumes, and now elbows in there as well. Again, I had Jillian earlier in the week. Now I have Barber. I'm going to go TKO round number 3, but I think it's that pressure, and she just has that eye, that look in her eye about her sometimes. This is a fun fight. I think you can't sleep on Jillian Robertson here. I think she's a live dog. It's not a dog or pass situation, because I do think the favorite wins. Who do you have? And why?
I actually have it the other way. I saw just tons of frustration come out of Macy Barber her last fight. And, I was all like, the future, Macy, blah, blah, blah. And she made me nervous. Not just... JJ was a good fight, but the Hannah Cifers... JJ... I think she got the best of JJ early, and then it was hard for JJ to mentally come back, emotionally come back. Not because of the skill level of JJ, but Macy, I don't like her cardio. I think she's going to blow her wad. I think Jillian Robertson is overlooked, and I think her ring IQ is a little better. I think she fights less emotionally, and she's going to fight a little smarter, because I think it's by far the best competition that Macy Barber's gone against. Jillian Anderson's gotten that much better every fight, and I think that emotionally, because of everything behind this fight and the chase of Macy to Paige Van Zandt, that is name value alone. You and I both know it. If you're chasing Paige Van Zandt, you ain't chasing champions. So she obviously didn't hide from this fight to get on the UFC Boston. She took the fight, but I think Jillian Robertson is a more well-rounded fighter than Macy Barber, and I actually think she has the better cardio here. And I think frustration is going to be the downfall to Macy Barber, and I think Robertson runs away with the decision.
On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the minus 135 favorite, Macy Barber, $8,300 against Jillian Roberts, plus 105, $7,900. I'm actually going to have 20%. Because both of these ladies average, Macy Barber 104, Jillian Roberts 90 points. At 8-3, I don't think it's a stack because it's a 3-round fight, but I do think whoever wins this fight is going to be a high scorer. Whether it's someone dominates on the ground or someone dominates striking, it's going to be dominant.
I don't know. I think it's going to be I think it could be one of those fight of the year where they stand and throw, and we see grime. I think we see takedowns. I think we see clinch work. I think we could see some inside elbows. I think kicks would be interesting for both ladies to mix into their game plan. This is an intriguing fight to me. I'm glad it's on the main card, and it's perfect. I think it's building for both women. I think this could actually be something with their age that we see a trilogy of for belts later on. I think both ladies are super exciting to watch, and I like your 2020 on that. That's good vision.
Barbara Walters approved. Barbara Walters
you got that 2020 vision.
Moving on to 155 pounds, we have Joe Luozon, J-Law coming in against debuting Jonathan Pierce. Pierce coming off of a 9-3 record. He is known as JSP. How dare you, sir? How dare you? Get out of here with that trash in there. I started watching his tape and being like, okay, maybe he's going to be GSP stylish. Nope, not one bit. Not one bit. He's definitely got his own style, and it's serviceable everywhere, but nothing really sticks out. Not the best takedown defense. Cardio's okay. He definitely gets tired in that third round. Submission defense hasn't been the best. The main way that I've seen Pierce get finished here is via submission, is on the ground via heel hook and guillotine, I believe. And Joe Luozon, one of the highest finish chasers in the UFC, one of the guys who gets the most bonuses, will finish you in any one of those facets. He will jump on the leg.
4 years ago.
That's the thing. It is the carcass of Joe Luozon, unfortunately. It is just a fighter on a 3-fight losing streak. It's somebody who is actually lost to Groots Maka.
Everybody who's retired.
Right? Who else in there? Freaking... He just can't take a punch anymore.
The guy who beat up BJ Penn in the alley. And
it's just
Jim Miller.
Really unfortunate for Luozon in this position.
Ray. Those are all his
Absolutely.
losses.
He got finished by Clay Guida.
He won Marcin Held.
In a split decision where he came out and said, I didn't deserve to win that fight, guys. He won that because he got taken down more. It's just the total back nine of the 35-year-old's career. He's been in way too many fights, 27 and 15. I just got to give the option, the avenue that Joe Luozon has. If he jumps for a knee, he could submit this young man because he just doesn't have that level of experience on the ground. But if this turns into a regular Joe Luozon scrappy type of a fight and the takedown defense stays up for Pierce, it can be a finish. But we've seen Joe Luozon not have the best chin as of late, and his gas tank has also been absolutely non-existent. So this is a fight where I'm picking Pierce, but it's almost in that Cub but I overshadowed that. But these are low-level competition where this is more of a fade on Lauzon than a play on Pierce. Even though I have a finish Pierce, TKO round number 2, it's because I think Lauzon just doesn't matter who he's in there with. If Clay Guida can get you out of there, 98% of the roster is going to be able to get you out of there as well.
You know that what you said about Macy Barber is like she has that hunger of like she just wants to finish fights.
Right.
Like where not everybody has that, and that can get you a really long way in this sport is just that hunger. That's really all I give Jonathan Pierce here is that hunger of wanting to finish a fight against a guy with no chin. This is way more a fade on Joe Lauzon. If Joe Lauzon at his prime was meeting this kid, like you're saying, it's a submission or even a decision, a comfortable decision because Massachusetts, he's from here. But more so, I'm guessing, and what should happen, this should be the time Joe Lauzon lays down them gloves in the octagon, right in Massachusetts, his home
win
state.
or lose.
Win or lose. Joe, get on out of here.
Please.
That's the only reason I'm picking this. And otherwise, I'm not going to go too heavy. I do have Pierce KO round 2. I'm just not going to put it everywhere because I love everything you're saying. We've seen so many of these veterans, a la Cub Swanson, a la Guida before, a la, that they just come out and they know a little more. They know how to stay alive now. And so that could happen. I just can't even fathom that it's going to. So I'm not going to go too heavy even though I have a finish.
On the debut or minus 120 favorite, Jonathan Pierce is going to be 8,500 on DraftKings against Joe Lauzon, 7,700, the plus one or minus 110 underdog. I just got it's a fade on Lauzon there. 8,500 is pretty steep against an untested guy. I'm going to probably have 0% of this fight.
And looking at Jonathan Pierce's cauliflower ear, I feel kind of okay, even with his takedown defense, just by looking at his cauliflower ear.
Actually, I can't say 0% on Pierce because I do see a finish.
Yeah, me too.
So I gotta play him at 8.5.
Me too. I'm gonna play him like 20%.
Yeah,
I'm just not gonna go crazy like I normally would with my finishes.
I could even see 5% Joe Lauzon. Just because of that
I
potential
could
heel hook.
just put it on one card.
Exactly.
One card Lauzon, but I have nose on. No Lauzon anywhere. So nose on. This is my nose on fight card. No Lauzon or the
Costa is his other boy.
Stay away from those two.
Definitely. Moving on to 265 pounds, we have returning Greg.
Mike Vick.
Hardy.
Oh, never mind. He doesn't beat dogs. He beats women. Oh, it's Greg Hardy. Not fair. We'll let it go.
Hardy against Ben, debuting Sisoli, the combat wombat in there. 7-2, coming off of a no contest eye gouge injury to Dustin Johnson on the Contender Series. Surprised that they actually gave him a shot in the UFC coming off this, but it has been par of the course for Greg Hardy's career. They've been bringing on guys with losing records, debuting in the UFC, and they're like, here, knock this guy out again. We've already seen multiple fights where Dana White's like, that looked like a setup fight. And that was Dana saying it.
Yeah.
This looks like a setup fight. Again. Fun stuff I saw with Ben in here was he has some alright combinations. He'll attack the leg every once in a while. Not a ton of power, but all heavyweights have power. Has had a chin on him. Didn't like people calling him a can. He didn't understand what a can was because apparently in Australia they don't use that terminology. So once he found out, he was like, you can can these nuts. So,
if I'm looking at his shoulder tattoo, it looks similar to
it's not
Whitaker.
I don't believe he has any ties to any of those guys. Coming out of Brazilian Training Center, I don't know if he has many ties to anyone that I was remembered of. I know he's had 2 or 3 shots at these tough houses as well and always seems to lose that. He even talked about how he didn't think he was going to get picked up after that eye injury, but they called him and they said Hardy, and he said, I don't care, you're going to give me another fight, right? And they're like, yeah, okay. So, I mean, it's a setup fight. Hardy, TKO round number 1 or 2, and it's just because he's the better athlete here.
Yeah,
he can throw the bigger shots.
his head coach is Dan Kelly, so he does fight with those. Yeah.
He fights with Potter as well.
Yeah.
And Jake Matthews.
Yeah.
So you are so right on that. So he's training with some guys that do know how to put a game plan together in here. I'm assuming it's take down Hardy, but Hardy was just able to actually defend a takedown against Juan Adams, which I think could be a real contender So Ben isn't even in the shadow of Adams. So it was actually really surprising that they took a step down in competition.
I give in. Hardy, KO round 1, total setup fight. Even when they try to take him down, it's hammer fist for days. It's inside uppercuts for days. Like, he has this crazy good. This is such a setup fight. Put Greg Hardy everywhere. I'm tired of even playing anymore, and I give him like a chance to redeem himself as a person, as long as he can also admit that these are all setup fights, dude. When are you gonna get a named opponent? Like, stop playing.
All he says, which is absolutely right, he says, whoever they put in front of me, I'm gonna fight. So if they give him the belt, he's gonna be like, all right, I'll fight that guy, which that's the right thing to do in there. Again, what are you gonna do? 9,300 on DraftKings for the minus 300 favorite. Could easily be more against Ben Sassoli, 6,900. One of the biggest underdogs. The only higher priced is Meatball McCann. That's telling.
And I think both those are finishes, but Greg Hardy's is going to be
the more consistent finish, right?
Yeah, almost like a guarantee.
Almost. We don't guarantee.
We never guarantee you around here.
But
you can go over to World Winning Federation for the guarantee.
So it's definitely one of those where it's going to probably be like 30% Hardy, 0% Sassoli.
Yeah, I could even see Hardy. Oh, it hurts almost. He could be my linchpin.
It's one of those. Yeah, he's one of those guys that's pretty confidently going to get it done in there. Just not a ton of power from Sassoli.
Sorry, I'm looking at the next fight and I'm like, here we go again.
The co-main event. As we were just talking about with the eye gouges, we have returning Yair Rodriguez coming in against Jeremy Stephens. You can go back and look at this headliner that we just broke down for you 2 weeks ago in Mexico City. In altitude, it was going to be 5 rounds. Now it's 3. We all saw the eye poke 20 seconds into the fight. It was a scratch to the eye. Yair Rodriguez almost losing more fans than Aspen Ladd as of late, because that's some of the Twitter stuff we didn't get into really quick.
I know. You know what? I was going to bring it up during Meatball.
But we should talk about it now because we already broke this fight down.
Yeah, that's true.
And Aspen Ladd tried to actually repeal her.
The one thing that I wanted to say, though, the one thing that does matter to me when I was re-breaking it down in my head is that 5-round to 3-round difference.
Oh, I 100% agree. But we should touch on that because that was pretty interesting with that Ladd. Just saying the GDR, she tried to overturn it. 2 of the 5 judges actually wanted to overturn it. 3 of them said no. Aspen Ladd saying she thought Herb Dean was gender equalist. What was he? A gender neutral?
He was being a genderphobic or something.
Sexist because he didn't like the fight go on. So Aspen Ladd getting as much heat, in my eyes, as Yair after this last fight, because I'm like, that's trash. Herb Dean is a professional.
Man, it's so far, like, come on, let it go. You lost that shit. I had you to win, girl, and you would have just gotten beat worse. You were not in your right pound. Like,
that weight cut hurt you. Why don't you get mad at your camp?
Stop playing. Respect GDR a little bit and get back to work and maybe meet her when she's carrying the belt. I mean, that's another pick for another day.
Definitely. So Yair Rodriguez coming in with all them kicks, all that flash. Now he only has to worry about 3 rounds, not an elevation. So he's going to be able to let loose in there. Takedown defense isn't the best once he's off his back. He'll throw up the triangles and stuff, but again, when that gas tank starts to wilt in that 3rd round, he doesn't look the best. Jeremy Stephens was my pick the last time around, and it was because of the power, the takedowns, and the ground game. But I do think that the 3 rounds benefits them both. Initially, I thought it was going to benefit Yair more, because I thought Yair was going to be able to now really let loose for 3, where he was going to have to pace that 5 round. Mm-hmm. But the same could be said for Jeremy Stephens. He had to also pace himself for 5, where I feel like now with the heat, with all of the animosity that's come off of it, I do think that Jeremy Stephens is going to swing even harder, which can bring the takedown, but it can also mean that he could just whiff air, because a lot of people are saying that they saw the dramatic speed advantage for Yair in those 20 seconds. I didn't see much. I still think the calf kicks can be a big factor for Stephens, and hopefully he starts kicking way faster than he did in the last time. But after all of this footage that came out, I'm just a Yair hater. I turned into a Yair hater. I used to love him.
I've always been a Yair hater.
I used to love him.
I didn't even care when he left the UFC for the first time because he was too scared to fight Zabit. Not scared, too scared, not scared, whatever. I don't care. I am not a huge Yair fan. I think this is little Heathens all day. I did have him having a finish because I just thought he would have the better cardio. So coming into the latter rounds of 4 and 5, the championship round, so to speak, I thought it would be all Stephens' ball game and Yair wouldn't be able to keep up. I still think Jeremy could finish because out of the two fighters, I think emotionally wise, Yair could blow his wad because he's getting a little too emotional at the beginning of this fight. I also see him trying dick kicks and eye pokes again. I think he's a dirty fighter. So I hope everything goes good in there. And if everything does, the veteranship of Jeremy, the cardio of Jeremy, the power of Jeremy, and just the well-rounded skill set, not sloppy old wacky shit. Yeah, sloppy old wacky fighters do crazy things, and sometimes it's fun to watch when they win in the last 10 seconds by doing an up elbow out of nowhere. But he was losing that entire fight up until then. And if you look at a lot of Yair fights, he's losing them except for those flashy points.
That happened after eye pokes, which I talked about with Andre Feely and multiple other fights.
And you've said it about certain other fighters that are just these dirty kinds of John Jones type fighters where once you take away one of guy's eye, you have a big, huge advantage now. Once you kick him in the dick, you have a big, huge advantage now. So as long as the fight stays clean, I have Jeremy again all day here by decision. I hope he finishes him because I, too, am a Yair hater.
8,100 on DraftKings, Jeremy Stephens. 8,100. Yair Rodriguez on DraftKings. I mean, this is a coin flip. Minus 115. Minus 115. Woo! I'm going to actually...
That could be fight of the year. I'm so excited about it.
I'm going to end up going... I'm going to say 30% Stephens, 10% Yair, potentially, because I see a potential finish for either guy. But as the fight goes on, I'm liking that Jeremy Stephens more.
In my opinion, the only reason Yair's point totals tend to be high is because he's in these battles where he's not very dangerous. So he's just pitter-pattering. Jeremy, don't play that. If you're just going to try to pitter-patter Jeremy, he's going to come forward the entire time. And Jeremy Stephens doesn't allow for point fights. He's just too aggressive for that. So I don't think I'll be playing Yair anywhere. But Jeremy Stephens... he has to finish to get a great score. I'm just probably going to speckle him because I need that 8,000 guy occasionally.
Right.
So he's just not because I don't see... he just never tends to be...
high scorer unless he finishes. Scorer. Definitely solid advice there. So it's going to be a fun one. You know you're going to be watching all over the place. That is definitely... whew,
and this Boston card did come together.
It did. It is definitely a fun... headliner. I
almost started a conspiracy that Jeremy Stephens faked all that shit to get a 3-round fight in America instead.
Which he says he's more relieved of. And what was the other...
If you saw the way the Mexican crowd acted just with that, then what would they have acted like once Yair was knocked out?
True. Very, very good point. But Yair didn't even want to take the fight initially with Stephens. Do you remember that as well?
He tried to... You don't know.
You don't deserve it. You had your shot. You
poked him in the ass hat.
Exactly. So definitely a great co-main event. Then we go to the debut for Chris Weidman at 205 pounds. We have the main event coming in against Dominick Reyes. Reyes being all sorts of hype, saying he deserves a shot against John Jones. Coming in with a perfect 11-0 record. Reyes winning all of his fights in the UFC against Cannonier, against... OSP decision, Ozdemir split decision 6 months ago, which I actually had him losing. I remember being like, I had Reyes, but Ozdemir won that fight.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Ozdemir won that fight.
It was on the fence, and you know what won it for him? The takedowns.
Exactly. But with Dominick Reyes, he's finally starting to meet at-level competition, so those finishes aren't coming as easily anymore. Those flying knees, all that flashy stuff. It's just regional scene. Yeah, he can do it, especially even lower UFC level. But now he's fighting these top 5 guys, top 3 guys with Ozdemir. Weidman moving up from 85. He might not deserve that top 5 rating, but I think he's easily a top 15 at 205 moving directly up. So,
as
of course,
crazy as it
sense.
is, like Dominick Reyes, I know he was your hype train coming into 18, but you've fallen off of that and been vocal with everybody about it. This is a friendlier welcome to the 205 than they gave Luke Rockhold with Jan.
I would agree with that. Interestingly enough.
I know nobody would have thought that, when we were first going into
with Reyes thinking he was going to murk everyone.
Yeah, but Jan, very scary fight, even stylistically. It was no favor. Sorry, go on. So,
Weidman, we know what we get with the former champ at 85, beating Silva, beating everybody else he's needed to, gotten those losses in there, having a nasty little run, only losing in the UFC with a 14-4 record. He beat Kelvin Gastelum in a triangle choke, and then as of late, come off another devastating finish to Souza 11 months ago. We like that over 8-month type of break for Weidman. We like the weight move up. It's really just been his chin, because even in a lot of the other previous losses with Romero, with freaking all of those losses, he was winning those fights until he got knocked out. Rockhold, Souza, he's winning 2 of these 3 rounds, and then all of a sudden, one little
and throws literally the worst move you see in UFC that year. Like he's winning the whole fight, and then the worst spinning back kick you've ever seen in your life.
So some people say
I could do a better one right here, right now.
Bold.
I would have knocked him out if he tried that shit on me.
Damn. This fight pick championship's got her hype. It's got her hype. The shit talking's gotten real. So against Reyes, he's got to be worried about these knees, because Yair Romero can land him, so can Reyes, but we've seen the gas tank falter a little bit. And one of the biggest things I went back and watched with Reyes, especially that last fight, was the wrestling gave him a lot of trouble. Ozdemir doesn't wrestle a lot, but he came in with good strikes immediately to the clinch. And once we started to see Reyes get gassed a little bit, all that flashy stuff came really slow and not well put together. And against a veteran like Weidman, he can go in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th and throw 4 and 5 punch combinations well, go to the body well. It's all that chin. That's all I'm worried about with Weidman.
Have you seen the movie The Professional? Do you
course.
Remember that movie? That
Loved
shooting
it.
movie? Okay,
Loved
I didn't know
it.
if it was too old, but have you seen the movie Professional? Does Dominick Reyes look like he could be that dude's son?
Leon was his name or something?
Leon?
Yeah. I could definitely see that.
Sorry.
But Weidman, I feel like if all 3 of Dominick Reyes' opponents, which were OSP, Olenek, and the other one, can take him down, Ozdemir, if they can take him down, Chris Weidman, with his national championship wrestling, can definitely take him there. And the Sarah Longo black belt has proven against other high-level guys that he'll triangle choke you. It's basic, but I actually think that triangle choke specifically works against Reyes, because he is so long that once his armpit gets above a certain level, the leverage doesn't work for his favor. So I actually have Chris Weidman submission round number 3. I think he can take it there. The further it gets, the better it gets for Weidman. And, I mean, anyone can get knocked out at any time, but I think this is definitely a winnable fight for the underdog. Main event, it's going to be a fun one. I love it when I pick a main event underdog. It just makes it that much funner. I feel like that's been happening as of late, and a lot of underdogs have been coming through on the main events. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, because JJ killed it.
Oh, that's right.
But I have Chris Weidman as well. I think that experience in there, the time off, the move up in weight, which maybe should have happened the fight before. He has the full skill set. He's a super well-rounded guy. You don't want to try kicks on him because, he has them legs of steel and he will break your leg just by even trying. So we know he has good checks on that. He's fought faster guys for sure than Dominick Reyes. And, for all intents and purposes, as far as punches Dominick Reyes is lying, Chris Weidman's gone against just as powerful of guys. That knee that knocked him out by Yoel, he was handling that whole fight until that knee, and that knee would have knocked out anyone. The Souza loss was a little more brutal for me just because of skill-wise. I think Souza is so far gone at this point, but he does have a good ground game that you could see where it stunted Chris a little. That ground game is not going to be there for Dominick Reyes. So I got Chris Weidman. I think he figures everything out. This is his comeback. This is his home story. I am more excited about him at 205 way than Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold's a guy I actually think should get on out of here just because I don't think he has a chin at all anymore. I know it seems like it should show that with Chris Weidman with the amount of losses he's had of late, but they haven't been the same where it's like one punch knockouts time and time to show me he's chinny. They've been like brutal, knees to the head where he split open. And even that, he was on the ground writhing in pain. He wasn't knocked all the way out. It was more so like, I know my head split open. Give me Weidman here. I think Dominick Reyes is obviously a hype train that didn't come to fruition, but I like Chris Weidman at 205. Give me the ex-champ, Chris Weidman.
Definitely gonna be a fun main event. It is going to be the favorite, Dominick Reyes, minus 165 against plus 145 for the underdog. Dominick Reyes on DraftKings, 8,800. Chris Weidman, 7,400. I'm going to be playing Weidman there. I could even sprinkle just to hedge my bets Reyes on like 10%, but I think Weidman in that 20 to 30% as well. I like him in a pretty good spot, especially to finish here. Who do you think you're going to end up going with, or how heavy do you think you're going to end up going with Weidman on your DraftKings for 7-4?
Weidman, he could be up there in like the 40% range, but I too might have one or two peppered with Reyes just because it is so scary still going up in weight this much. And obviously watch weigh-ins. The fights are going to be on Friday, so our cards are going to be dropping a little early. We're going to even maybe try to get those out early tomorrow at some point, and then obviously in for the Fight Pick Championships by midnight of Thursday night. So make sure you're following us everywhere so you know what's going on, and you can get your picks out in time and get your DraftKings cards or your parlays, or just tell your family that you don't know shit. Look at my picks. That's all I got to say about that.
Let me